Hello, folks. Welcome to the BBC. No, no, that wasn't it. That was a flawed joke from the ground up. Hi, folks. Welcome to Hitting Mark with Harry and Mark. We hope you had a wonderful half century in between when we last talked. Moons have been decimated, civilizations risen and fallen, but we are always constant. Always.
Always.
Today, I'm joined by the philosopher warrior, Harry.
Hello?
God, it's been so good. So good to have you back. Back in the saddle, back in the ring.
Yeah.
We're doing this. It's Harry and Mark with hitting and the get. Deep breath. Hitting Mark with Harry and Mark. I'm your co-host Mark. This is your co-host Harry. We're two
Hello.
idiots who love talking about things we have no idea what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we have a very important day. Today, we are going to talk about something that has been very, very subtly on the outskirts of almost every conversation we've had in every one of these podcasts since we first started.
Mm-hmm.
The review of Dune, Part 1. We'll also be going over a couple trailers that have come out in the recent days. Let's see. Twitch's payment leaks,
You know,
and whatever else we feel like on the way.
exactly.
Damn straight. But first, Harry, how was your week?
My weeks?
Yeah, how are your
Plural.
weeks?
Okay. Well, I caught the Rona. I was sick for a couple of weeks, so that's a big reason why we didn't do podcast. Um,
Mhm.
I was isolated.
Thankfully, you are okay.
I am okay. I am here and breathing normally, thankfully.
Yes,
Um, and
I should hope so.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I was isolated for 2 weeks in a hotel, um, and that was so it was cool to just not work for 2 weeks and just chill, but it was also kind of like I couldn't do anything, and I was also sick. So
Mhm.
luckily, not sick for too
Well,
long.
yeah.
I was like sick for like maybe 5 days or so, and then I was fine. Um, but just protocol, trying to stay isolated for minimum 10 days and stuff like that. So uh but it was fun. Other than
Yeah, COVID
that,
was really, really fun, you know?
yeah.
It turns
um
out despite, how terrible it is, it murdered Colin Powell, so I guess
mhm.
I should really think before I judge a destructive disease by its, cover, right?
Yeah. Yes. um but I just we or my lovely wife and I just hung out at a hotel together and played video games. That's literally what we did. I brought my PlayStation. Um and just we just that's all we did. And watch Seinfeld by
You
accident.
watch Seinfeld?
So when we were going to bed,
My fingers look like people.
exactly.
I don't know. I don't know where that joke came from.
So okay, by accident because we wanted something in the background because we're just like we just don't want to watch TV. We don't like commercials, so we're like let's just put something from Netflix, on my on PlayStation, and we'll just put it in the background while we sleep, right? Because our sleep schedule was awful, right? We're falling asleep at like 6 in the morning, waking up at 4 in the afternoon. It was pretty bad. Um, so we put that on because we turn on Netflix, like, oh, what do we put on? And the first thing that popped up was Seinfeld. We're like, okay, it's not that great of a show. We'll just put it in the background. We won't, it's just background noise for us. We put it on, and yeah, no, we're just enthralled. We just watched it, and we're just like, fuck, we're watching Seinfeld. um, but yeah, so that's what we did in the hotel. We played video games and watched Seinfeld. Unfortunately,
So not
um,
entirely terrible. And I
not
mean,
entirely terrible,
Seinfeld was one of the greatest comedies of the 90s.
and I see why.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wait till
Um,
you get to if you keep at it. Wait till you get to the one where they all take a fucking vow not to masturbate. Always Sunny riffed off that episode.
oh
Oh
wow,
god,
okay.
it's good in both ways. It's so good. Oh, I can't think of a genuinely uninteresting episode of Seinfeld. I really can't.
Yeah, no, every episode was just enthralling. Like I would like lay there and I'd be hearing the episode in the background, and I would have to look like, okay, what the fuck's happening right now? And
Hey, Jerry. Yeah.
yeah, and this is a story pre me being sick. I was gonna tell. Um, so I was at In and Out, right?
Oh fuck.
And I was on my way home from work, and everyone's like, "Oh, well, we don't really have dinner ready. Like, should we just eat out?" I was like, "Sure." I was like, "You want to just get In and Out on the way home?" Like, okay, yeah, sure. So, you know, I got to order for 4 people. I was like, cool. I go through the drive-through because I don't want to get out of the car. Fuck that. So I order my meal. I'm like, this is the basic meal, right? Some double doubles, maybe a cheeseburger, some animal fries for myself, fries for the rest of them. You know, I'm like, all right, to go, let's go. Boom. Place the order, wait in line. I go up to the where you pay, and I pay. I drive up, and she looks at me. The cashier looks at me and is like, "Oh, how many placemats do you want?" I'm like, "Oh, none." Like placemats, whatever. I was like, okay, and so I pay for it, boom, and then I'm like, placemats. Why would they ask me for placemats when I ordered to go? And then it dawned on my head, like, did they not put to go and they thought I'm trying to eat all this fucking food for 4 people uh, in my car? And so I drive up to where I pick up the food, and then they also give me this look like, oh crap, like, they're like, here's your food. I'm like, uh, I ordered to go, and they're like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. I'm like, uh, and
Jesus.
so
It's all your fault, Harry.
it is my fault, right? Even though I said to go.
Yeah.
And because they always ask you, are you eating this in the car or to go? And I said to go. It was a big meal, right? I ordered 4 burgers, 4 fries, no drinks, but
Oh,
4 burgers and 4 fries. And it didn't dawn on me until after I paid for it. Like, why would they ask if I want placemats if it's a to go order? That doesn't make any sense. And then I realized that look they gave me, or the cashier gave me, when I first pulled up, because they looked at me and they looked at the passenger side and then looked in the back seats and realized there's no people there, and we're like, "How many placemats do you want?" And I'm like, none. So yeah, I was a little like, oh man, they thought I was gonna eat all that food to myself. That's great. Um,
oh,
that
so good.
So that's about it. For my weeks. How about
Mhm.
yourself? How has your weeks been?
So, for the sake of comedy,
Uh huh.
I have not gotten COVID.
That's fantastic.
Yep, it's pretty great. Um, but
Mm.
I have, however, been painting. I have
Oh.
been refining my stuff a bit. I have a whole bunch of models and whatnot that have been collecting dust on my cab or my shelving. I
Mm-hmm,
have a
mm-hmm.
USS Defiant. I have a second a second Razor
Ooh.
Crest model that
Ooh.
I am doing better at. And then I have a USS Enterprise, which I'm going to get to eventually. And then, the USS Discovery, which, by the way, I'm going to watch. I'm going to review the
Oh.
shit out of it when that comes across. So
Okay.
I've got a queue, and I'm taking numbers.
All right.
So yeah, I'm happy about that. I've over the last 3 weeks, I have been watching the Freddy Krueger movies with
Mm-hmm.
Stace and I.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna lie, they're not that great.
Yeah, I would have guessed.
So I enjoy the first one for, it being the first one.
Right.
Uh I think subsequent sequels like understood how to like how do I want to put it? They understood how to film Freddy. So
Mm-hmm.
in the first one, Fred Krueger, as he's portrayed,
Yeah.
is very omnipotent and all powerful, but he like chases you and fumbles in a really weird and awkward way, and it doesn't fit who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but he also gets funnier as the movies progress.
Okay.
Um, so the first one is very straightforward. It's follows this one person and a couple of her friends, Nancy, Johnny Depp, and a couple other fucking people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the only story that we get is that Freddy Krueger was a child murderer, and that Nancy's father and a couple other members of the town killed him.
Right.
He's back. Then in
Mm-hmm.
the second one, he's dead, and he possesses this high schooler, and this takes place like 4 years after the first movie. The third movie picks up with our original actress and a couple
Interesting.
other people, and we find out that Freddy is actually specifically targeting the children of the people who killed him.
Oh, okay. Makes more
And
sense.
that, yeah, part of the backstory, which I don't particularly care for,
Right.
uh, is that Amanda Kruger, a woman in the mid to late 20s, was a nun working at like a sanitarium or sanatorium somewhere in
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ohio, and she was raped by like sexually assaulted by the inmates
Right.
over the weekend because she was locked in by accident, and they left her there, and the inmates hid her from the other people, and she was just like half dead when they found her, and she
Mm-hmm.
gave birth to Freddie and whatnot, and then he was just put up for adoption.
Right.
Then in the fourth one, uh it's more or less just kind of the hold on. 4 and 5 are kind of just rinse and repeat in a way.
Mm.
The fourth one is okay, some of the survivors of the third one are getting picked off now and are essentially all defeated. So by the fourth film, all of the survivors or all of the children of the adults who killed Freddy are dead,
Okay.
and he's trying to make headway into the rest of the neighborhood and to continue him, surviving and living and thriving off of people through their dreams.
Okay.
Um, so we have another character who was friends with the last person to live from that group, and she fights back and yada yada yada, wins. Then the fifth one is you find out she's pregnant, and Freddy is like manipulating the fetus
Whoa.
and killing people that way. And then the sixth one, holy shit, can't believe I'm saying it, follows Freddy Krueger's daughter. And like never fucking brought up at all.
Wait,
Just
what?
appears. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So the timeline around there is 1920s or 1930. Amanda Krueger is sexually assaulted by all these inmates,
Mm-hmm.
births Fred Krueger, and he's put up for adoption. And 1960 something, he is discovered to be the child murderer in Springwood, Ohio, or Michigan, or wherever, and he's killed. And then
Yeah.
the 80s is when all this shit is going on. 81 is when it's set, even though the
Mm-hmm.
first movie is made in 1984, and then so on and so forth. This almost all takes place in the 80s.
Okay.
So fucking the last one in the main series is 6, and I'm going to get there in a while because there are a couple more. Because this one features Freddy Krueger's daughter.
Right.
And she apparently finds out in like the late 60s that he's a murderer and represses all this shit and is adopted. She becomes a child psychologist, and Freddy, not able to leave Springwood, like wipes this guy's memory and gives him the impression that he is Freddy's son,
Oh.
so he can bring his daughter back to Springwood, possess her, so that he can leave Springwood and continue his death thing. This is
Um,
also the episode, or not episode, the movie where we find out that Freddy isn't just like a malevolent force who's come back to fuck with people's dreams. It's three malevolent spirits throughout all of history that like possess people to do terrible shit,
huh.
and they've selected Freddy this time. And this is also the episode or movie, by the way, that introduces 3D, and it's really fucking obvious, and it's really fucking terrible, and I hate it. Um, this is also the wackiest fucking movie out of the entire bunch.
Okay.
So yeah. Um, and then the next one I actually like. Stace doesn't really care for it as much, but because it's Wes Craven, you can kind of feel the
Oh.
proto. Yeah, I know, I love it. You can
Okay.
feel the proto Scream stuff going on, like the dealing with the phone, people on the phone,
Yeah.
the quiet suburban modern '90s feel, the movie within a movie kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
this is basically set in our world where Nightmare on Elm Street is a film franchise,
Mm.
and the actress who plays Nancy, the woman in the first and third films,
Yeah.
plays herself, Heather Langenkamp.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And we find out again by Wes Craven himself that there is a malevolent force that has existed through the ages
Mm-hmm.
that pops up and just makes people fucking scared and kills them. And he has been subdued and kept at bay by Wes Craven creating the Nightmare on Elm Street movies and continuing them.
Huh.
And the entity has now assumed the identity of Freddy and is killing people in our world
Huh.
because yeah, no, I like it more than the previous one, but
Yeah.
man, this is a fucking this is a nutter. Anyway, uh I was I'm not a fan of like particularly uh, uh Machiavellian, no, not Machiavellian. Like I'm not a fan of like deep origin stories.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of Freddy Krueger literally just being a fucking terrible person who
Mm-hmm.
just inexplicably is back for revenge. And I was saying it's always a point of contention with Stace and I, because it's like I don't necessarily care that he's Laurie Strode's brother in some of the other movies, and I
Mm-hmm.
get that there's like this huge mythology that comes from it, but I kind of just like the idea of him just being a fucking shark. Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't know what the fucking shark does. He's just a shark. He's an animal, you know.
Yeah.
That's not to say that I don't like the mythology. Like there's some fun stuff in 4 and 5 that I really enjoy that you can't get without him being Jamie's uncle or Laurie Strode's, brother.
Right.
But sometimes I find like Occam's razor applies. Like the simplest answer is, probably the most correct, or the most straightforward answer is probably the way to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, Robert Englund is fucking great. You can see he has so much more fun with every fucking movie. Uh, so I'm just waiting to see Freddy versus Jason because I have to show Stace
Oof.
Friday the 13th franchise now, and that's
Yeah.
way more fucking movies than Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes, there are.
Oh man, God, I would rather watch the Halloween franchise like 3 times over than do fucking Friday the 13th. And now she's looking at me. She's like, "Yeah, let's do it." Um. Anyway, sorry. Robert Englund is great. He's kind of the glue that holds that franchise together
Mhm.
because, yeah. Um. God, there are people probably who 10 years from now are going to be screaming at me over this. But yeah, I've been doing that and painting and doing some video games. Oh, have I mentioned in the fucking podcast that Deathloop might be connected to Dishonored?
I don't remember.
Yeah. So I'm fucking excited for this. You remember how I was fucking bitching and moaning about Glass at the end of Glass being a fucking stealth sequel to Uncharted? I mean,
Yeah.
Uncharted. Yeah, it's like that for me with Death. So apparently, at the end of Deathloop, spoiler alert, you and Juliana, the person who is hunting you in the loop, uh, you're invited to the center of the object that's holding the loop in place. And
Mhm.
Juliana's like, "Hey, listen, you're my dad, and I brought you up here because I know for a fact now that at this point you don't want to kill me, and I don't want to kill you, and I want to keep this loop going, and I want to spend it with you." Touching shit, right?
Very
Um,
touching shit.
she pulls out a case with two dueling pistols, and she says, "They're nice, they're beautiful, they're part of history. They actually have the old whale cartridges in them." Now, for anyone like who's a passing fan of Dishonored, uh, that's a fucking big ass red flag because Dunwall, the main city that you're in the first game, and Serkonos, the one in the second game, use whale oil because in that world, whale oil is like a power source.
Mm.
So yeah, just thought it was really cool. I really like the the different branching kind of like innovative way they went about it. Anyway, fun stuff. Moving
Well,
on,
moving
because
on.
if I fucking stop, I'm gonna be. If I don't stop, I'm gonna be stuck. Anyway, where do we want to go from here, Bear?
We are gonna talk Dune because we just watched that this past Thursday. Yes, and we
Yeah.
watched it on IMAX because that's what they wanted us to see it on. Um,
Yep.
and
And I watched a little bit on HBO.
and a little bit on HBO. It is
Yeah.
free on HBO, so that's great. I thought that was
Yeah.
awesome that we can just go back and rewatch it on HBO because it's like there was a lot to take in.
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh, so in regards to that, since we were talking about this hurting Dune possibly,
mhm.
they're having a pretty good open. They're making a lot of fucking money. They
Oh
made
my,
a lot of money overseas before the release,
yeah.
so it's not hurting them too bad. They're doing pretty good.
I,
God, gabba do good, good.
I didn't think it would because again, I think we discussed it before. Like people still like going to the movies, right?
Yeah.
People still love
Oh
going to the
yeah.
movies. So it's like I didn't think it would, and then especially a movie like this, like the advertisement and the marketing was pretty good, and
Yeah. They
uh
they definitely ramped it up once
yeah.
once all the hullabaloo died down.
Mm-hmm. So they did a great job, and I think um like I'm not surprised that they're doing well in the box office, just because like
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
people want to watch this movie and they want to watch in the big screen. No offense to HBO Max and sitting at home and watching it, which is still fun, right? But an epic movie like this, like I'm glad we went to go watch it in the theater, right? Like
Oh yeah.
it would have been cool to watch it at home. Like I still would have liked it, but it wouldn't have hit me with such an impact like it did watching it in the movie theaters.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So I didn't read the book. I vaguely remember the original movie. It's been a while. I watched it once with I believe you,
Mhm.
years ago. And vaguely remember it. So, um, I know you watched the original recently before we watched the Dune, and you've also read the book. So,
Mhm.
you're gonna go more in depth in this movie than I am.
Yeah.
I'll
So,
definitely give my 2 cents about what I felt about the movie and everything. But the floor is yours. Let us know what you think.
okay. Hmm. I liked it. All right, let's move on. Okay, so I'm gonna do like a three-tiered thing. I'm gonna talk generally about the movie. I am going to talk about when I talk generally about the movie, it's things that I liked, things that I
Mhm.
overall appreciate about the movie. I'm then going to go into my two-parter,
Mhm.
things I think the movie had a bit of an issue with,
Yep.
and then I'm going to get into part three, the book film departure and some of my issues there. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So let's see. Brief synopsis. Spoilers ahead. Um, the film takes place as the book does, I believe, in the year like 10,000. God, 10,200 or something.
Mhm.
In a interstellar feudal society. Our main characters are the Atreides, who inhabit the planet Caladan. Caladan is a lush, beautiful paradise, and it is controlled by the uh, benevolent, honorable, honest Leto Atreides. His son, Paul, is to inherit the Atreides name or the Atreides title, and Leto's concubine, Lady Jessica, fosters and takes care of Paul. The Imperium is this universe spanning empire, and the Emperor has commanded that Leto Atreides and the Atreides forces take up the mantle or take the claim of the planet Arrakis. Arrakis is the only planet to produce spice or the spice melange. The spice melange is a commodity that the entire universe covets. And this planet was previously in the hands of the Atreides, like blood rivals, the Harkonnens or the Harkonnens, whichever you prefer, dealer's choice. Um, these guys have, in secret, planned to massacre the Atreides with the help of the Emperor, who is jealous and scared of the Atreides' growing popularity within the Landsraad, i.e., the Imperium. So they have given Atreides Arrakis to temporarily weaken them in this position. You know, the more eyes you have, the more power you have at the moment, it's easier to topple. While this Game of Thronesy kind of machination is going on, Lady Jessica is in a deep, deep, deep pile of doo doo because she is part of a society known as the Bene Gesserit. The Bene Gesserit are a sisterhood of women who are trying to bring about the next messianic figure, which they dub the Kwisatz Haderach. As said before, Lady Jessica is in a fucking tizzy because she has been tasked with giving Leto daughters and chose, I don't know how you choose to do this, but she did, loved Leto so much that she gave him a son. And this one fucking thing ruined the Bene Gesserit's entire plan that they had been planning for thousands of years to bring about this superhuman to control the galaxy. And they believe that it is Paul. Everyone still with me so far?
Yep.
Little geopolitical or geo-interstellar machinations, or wait, stellar political machinations regarding territory, messianic figures. Okay. So when the Atreides move to Arrakis, they find that they are in desperate need of gaining allies and information and strengthening their hold. They realize that they're in kind of a trap, but they think that they can outsmart it. They're fucking wrong. One of their trusted confidants betrays Leto because he has his own desires and needs. He has someone who is being held by the Harkonnens, and they have said that they will free her in the event that he aids them. He does. The Atreides forces are almost entirely destroyed. Paul and Jessica are left to flee into the desert. And if I haven't mentioned, Arrakis is just a giant sand ball with worms. Yeah, forgot about that. Big ass fucking worms. And I'm not talking tapeworms. I'm talking like World Trade Center worms, okay?
Massive.
Yeah, massive. Okay? Massive. So, in search of some help, they go to the Fremen. The Fremen are the indigenous people of Arrakis. They are a nomadic, brutal, water worshipping people who also worship the sand worms as well. Shai-Hulud, they call them, or the biggest one, at least.
Mm.
The Fremen take to Paul and Jessica because they believe that Paul is their messianic figure. And it turns out that he actually is the Kwisatz Haderach. But through coincidence and through the Bene Gesserit kind of fucking with primitive civilizations all across the galaxy, the Kwisatz Haderach coincides with their religion. And Paul, being the vindictive, revenge-wanting little shit that he is, says, "Yep, I'm the Kwisatz Haderach. I am the Lisan al-Kiyab. Call me Muad'Dib. Let's kill the fucking Harkonnens." So the Harkonnens, who have killed Leto Atreides, have scattered the Atreides forces, have now taken over Arrakis once more. And they are slowly losing their grasp because this new leader, this Muad'Dib, has come suspiciously sometime after Paul and Lady Jessica and Leto have been supposedly killed. Leto's dead for sure, but they couldn't quite kill Jessica and Paul, and they didn't know where their remains were. So the culmination of how do I say this? No. The ending of the book is Paul ransoming the planet to the rest of the Imperium in exchange to become emperor. I am of course gliding over a lot of this.
Mm.
So if that sounded like a fucking mouthful, this movie, this 1 hour or 2 hour and 35-minute movie, accounts for about, I'd say close to about 60% of the book.
Okay.
Man, oh man. Okay, so I think right off the bat,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I did that. I fucking synopsied the fucking book and not the movie. but we'll go over that. Rest assured, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Um, I think the movie is really entertaining. I really enjoyed it. I felt that there wasn't a thing in terms of the movie that was lacking.
Okay.
I thought it had a solid sense of suspension, or I had a sense of suspense. I loved the music.
Yeah.
I
Agreed.
was I got the impression that Hans Zimmer was just like throwing everything at the wall, and it was impressive because he didn't have his typical like blah from Inception.
Yeah.
So I can't tell if that's restraint or just like going for broke, desperate. But
Mhm.
I couldn't parse out a single portion of the soundtrack that I didn't like. Um, I think I wanted to lean over and like mention when they were on Celsa Secundus, which is a prison planet, and they were recruiting the Sardaukar, the
Mhm.
Emperor's elite forces. You know, the guys in the white and the blood and all that shit.
Yes.
That like guttural didgeridoo kind of prayer thing that the guy was doing, that music, or if you could even call that music, I thought was so fucking atmospheric and so just taint curlingly wonderful. I don't know what it is. I think there might have been some bits that I felt were kind of like outlandish, but it really just, I think, worked in every sense of the word. Like drums, uh, like uh, uh, Eastern like guttural sounds, bagpipes. Like they really just threw fucking ideas in every direction, and I think almost all of it really stuck.
Mhm.
So, uh, let's see. I think the costumes are out of this fucking world amazing. Uh, I was a little about the still suits when I saw the images, but I think they're actually, despite a couple of wide shots, they're actually pretty flexible looking. Uh, the design is pretty nice, kind of got like a makeshift industrial vibe. Uh, the Harkonnens are instantly recognizable with like a jet black to them. The Atreides as well have like a black or deep green in their outfits. The Fremen as well have a wonderful kind of dusted like tan to some of their still suits that it makes them almost immediately recognizable. Uh, that segues immediately into the visuals. Let's start with the practical. Uh, I think this movie is so visually striking. I don't necessarily think it was as striking as something like Blade Runner,
Mhm.
but uh, the designs of some of these buildings, like there's this scene in when we see the Harkonnens for like the second time, and it's when the Baron is like sitting in this throne room, and you can kind of see the geometry of the room isn't quite normal, and it just, I don't know, I don't know how to describe it. I wish it was almost a little more uncomfortable, you know, more angular or more organic or more rounded rooms, but like
Mhm.
what I saw for some of it had a very immediate characterization, right?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
the soft and comfortable woods felt very Atreides, you know? And then you go to Arrakis and everything feels so inhospitable. I was initially a little bummed because uh the show, the movie prior, and this one all tend to kind of have like a very, I think, drab and one color look for Arrakis and Arrakeen.
Yeah.
And I realized I don't mind that. It's a fucking desert. What do you expect? And they really push how hot it is, I think, visually. But I remember there's a comic book that came out and they use such vibrant colors, and I was thinking to myself, it's science fiction, a little bit of science fantasy in there. We can afford to put some color in there. But I do still enjoy the general look that they went with this Dune. Uh, CGI, let's see. CGI, I think, absolutely enhanced this film. I told you earlier, uh, when we were exiting the theater, I felt like this level of scale is what Star Wars, the sequel trilogy, should have been. Like,
Yeah.
there's a moment where this big, like, just tube ship, like a guild highlighter, comes over Arrakis, and it's literally just a cylinder, and this giant maw is where the main ships come out, and Josh Brolin's character is like peeking up at it, and it just, like, it dwarfs the ships around it, and it's like the sense of scale is absolutely amazing. Um, let's see. I'm trying to, like, off the off the back of my head, just remembering what I wanted to say about all this. Um, you know what? I was thinking to myself before this was going on, when I was seeing the trailers, I was wondering to
Hmm.
myself, how, if they could pull something like this off. And long story short, I think they did. But
Okay.
they managed to take something that I didn't think could be very compelling. The first, I think, like 60% of the book,
Hmm.
and I think make a fairly compelling amount of screen time for it. Uh, I think everyone is in lockstep pretty well. Oscar Isaac, I think, is my favorite part of the movie so far. Uh, he adds. I mean, I don't think there's much to Leto Atreides. I don't think there's much to him in the movies either. But
Yeah.
Oscar Isaac gives just such a wonderful performance as kind of like the Ned Stark of this universe, right?
Right.
Uh, actually, I think that's a fair statement now that I think about it. I think Paul is very much the Jon Snow of this world too, the guy who's kind of resigned to duty and whatnot. But anyway,
Yeah.
um, Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho, the weapons master and the dude bro friend of Paul Atreides, is pretty fun. Um, I actually did enjoy this casting. Uh,
Okay.
Jason Momoa, I think he put in the time to really uh I don't, maybe he's not really flexing his acting chops, but there are one or two moments where he actually has a really solid command of the screen. And I'm not talking like, handsome Momoa or, choreography Momoa. I'm talking like there's a moment when Arakeen is sacked and he flies to Liet Kynes, one of the Fremen, and he has a couple of lines that he kind of gets to uh, emotionally invoke, and I thought he did a very good job with that.
Mm.
That I enjoyed. Josh Brolin is absolutely enjoyable as Gurney Halleck. Let's see. God, what is his name? I think it's Stephen Henderson or Stephen. Yeah, Stephen Henderson. I actually really enjoyed as Thufir Hawat. Thufir Hawat is one of my favorite characters in Dune. I will explain all of these characters when I get into some of my gripes. Don't worry. Um, Henderson was in Deus or Devs last year, which was a fun little series developed by Alex Garland.
Okay.
Um, Stellan Skarsgård, I think, is one of my favorite parts of next to Oscar Isaac, is one of my favorite parts about the movie. He, I think, manages to perfectly encapsulate the intimidating and frightening nature of the Duke, or of the Baron.
Yeah.
Like, I also mentioned this to you, the most realistic fat person physics or prosthetics I've ever seen. Just, it doesn't feel like it's foam rubber or latex or styrofoam. Like, his jowls just kind of move perfectly, and it
Hmm.
really adds to his menace. There's
Yeah.
a moment where he's like doing his like floaty thing towards someone, and he stands like a full 2 feet taller than everyone in the scene. And it helps that the camera is like oppressively facing upward towards him. Uh, I thought, as much as I like Dave Bautista, I found his performance kind of underutilized. Uh, I don't have much of an opinion yet on Zendaya. I was a little disappointed by David Deschelman, not by his performance. Again,
Mm.
I think I liked every performance in this movie. I just feel that they might have been a little underutilized. Uh, the actor who plays Dr. Yue, he actually does a solid job with like the criminally underutilized like 6 lines he has in the entire movie. Let's see. I have someone else that I wanted to mention. You know what? They gender bent and race bent the character of Leah Kynes or maybe not even race bent. I don't particularly know. But I do know in the novels, Leah Kynes is male, and
Mm.
in the movie, it's a female actress. I actually don't know the actress. I apologize to anyone who's interested. I don't know the actress by the name. She actually gives a solid performance with the couple of scenes that she has to shine as well. Lastly, I think the final little standout I enjoyed was Javier Bardem. Javier Bardem gave like a solid performance with like 2 scenes. He has one scene midway through the movie where he is first introduced, and then kind of like a second scene near the end of the film where we kind of see him in a different light, uh, where the power dynamic is changed, and we kind of see him in a higher view. Um, Yeah, other than
Mm.
that, I'm trying to think of what else to mention about the movie itself. Um, I am honestly looking forward to a sequel.
Mm.
Uh, Overall, I'm trying to think of no, no, no. This is my good portion. So this is part one. I did enjoy the movie. I don't think, at least for me, as someone who enjoys the novels, and I can't really separate myself from them, I did enjoy the pace a little bit.
Yeah.
As a movie. Uh, so let's get into some of the things as a movie I didn't quite care for. Uh, I think the movie I'm going to sound like an asshole because I said I like the pace. I do think the movie drags.
Mm.
Um, I was fast forwarding kind of like back and forth to get like a pinpointed view of how the movie kind of progresses, and the sacking of Arakeen, the big, it's a trap moment,
Yeah.
is about an hour and 40 minutes in. And by then, there's a whole nother hour left of the movie. And I was thinking to myself, you could do that hour in 30 minutes and still be potent. Uh, the movie ends, I think, I was hearing other reviews and they were saying, oh, it kind of ends in a very anticlimactic spot. To be fair, I actually don't think that's the case. I will pull from the book this one instance for this uh this argument. The 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 movie ends near the midway point, about 50 to 60% of the way through the book. So there are people who are saying that it could have ended somewhere, I think, a little more climactic, like right after the scene or right after the sack of Arakeen, or maybe somewhere else or right before that. Um, but I think this is actually a pretty solid spot to end the series, where Jessica and Paul are picked up by the Fremen. Uh,
Mm.
I feel like I was reading on Reddit. I was reading that someone said it would have been interesting if the movie had ended right before the time jump in the book, as in there is a 2-year time jump in the book between uh, sometime after they're picked up by the Fremen, after they have kind of joined their society a little bit, and then
Mm-hmm.
2 years pass, and during that time, Paul has kind of amassed a bit of a rebellion and whatnot. So they made an argument that the first movie should have ended at the beginning of that point, right before the 2-year thing stops. And
Mm.
I don't know if that would have been a good choice, because I still feel as though there's a lot of information that they should have put in and didn't, or there should have been stuff in terms of just talking about the movie that we could have lingered on, I think, and that would have been completely infeasible, because that would mean that there would have to have been at least another, if we did it poorly, another 30 minutes of content that you'd have to put in this movie. Um so the movie creates a scenario where it begins with uh Paul dreaming of Chani. And this happens in the book. And him meeting her when they meet the Fremen, I actually think is a solid point, because there are a lot of visions in this film, more so than in the previous movie, more so than in the book and in the show. There are more visions that kind of thematically and narratively make it feel more like meeting Chani should be the end point of this movie. And it is. And I think it's a solid point to end on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Part three.
Part three. Are we okay? Is there anything you wanted to talk about?
No. I'll after you.
Are you sure? Because I don't want to change any momentum. If you want to talk about stuff you like, I'd rather do that before I just, like, in case I drop people's liking.
No, no, no. Go for it.
Okay. Oh. While I don't want to be the in the book kind of fellow, I will say that I do feel some of the substance was lost in translating the book to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I am soft on not, in real life. I am soft on my opinion of this until the next movie comes out, but there is a significant political portion of this of the book that is not in the movie. There's stuff that I feel is simply there because it's Dune, but doesn't need to be there because some things are now cut, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So, Stace actually helped me articulate this a lot better. Uh, okay, I'm trying to articulate my thoughts a little better in how I want to say this, because everything that I said beforehand was not me creating like an obligatory, comment or a
Mm-hmm.
compliment or gush thing. I did like this movie. I thought
Yeah.
the performances were good. Timothy Chalamet, I thought, was pretty good. I loved the visuals. I loved how it made me feel. It felt like a Dune film, or it felt like a Dune adaptation. Uh, but when I was reading the book, part of what I really liked was the political machinations, and the political machinations underpin everything in the book. So when I say stuff is there because it's a Dune movie based off of a Dune novel, but doesn't need to be there because the political machination stuff isn't there, I'm talking. Uh, let's see. Let's start with something easy. there's a moment in the previous movie and in this one where we realize that Leto never marries Lady Jessica. And he doesn't marry her because of potential alliance prospects.
Hmm.
And this is talked about briefly, but still talked about. And in both movies, Leto confesses his regret that he never just married Lady Jessica. I feel that this is the most minor critique, by the way. This is something that doesn't matter um, to the story at all. But I feel like that's something that doesn't need to be in the movie because the political thing isn't talked about at all. Um, I feel like as intimidating and as fucking like taint curlingly wonderful as Baron Harkonnen is, the political underpinnings really make him more of a nuanced character.
Mm.
Uh, in the movie, like I can't say it enough. He is thoroughly intimidating. There is a quality to him that is just so unnerving. I don't know what it is. Like, it's the moment when his fat ass is fucking floating like 2 feet above Yui, and
Hmm.
he's just like he uses that wonderful like thing where he lies. Like, of course he says, "Oh, I'm never gonna do this," and then he uses a lawyer's lie, oh, I didn't hit that person, or I didn't hit that person, or I didn't hit that person. Whenever someone says don't do this, he's there to do it and use words to cover up how he did it, right?
Hmm.
um and that's great. I thought that was pretty solid. But there is a whole political swing to it that makes him so much more calculated and interesting, I think, in the books. His his uh his begrudging alliance with the Emperor, uh his relationship with some of his subordinates, namely Piter. Piter gets fucking shafted as a character because he doesn't have any relationship with the Baron Harkonnen, right?
Right.
Um, there was at least a little bit of friction in the previous movie. In this one, I mean, he literally has no relationship. There are almost no lines of dialogue or conflict between Piter and the Baron. Piter is very much like Thufir Hawat. They are mentats. They are super thinking humans. They aid uh the nobility in like mathematical thinking. And Piter de Vries is like a mentat assassin. He has the all the abilities of a mentat, and he's kind of like a bit of a little finger, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Thufir Howard is kind of like uh a Varys, except more
Mm.
loyal. So I appreciate that they included the Sardaukar. I mean, they kind of have to because I would imagine it's going to extend into the next movie. But there is one scene or there are two scenes that I want to talk about,
Yeah.
and then I will get off of this because I think it's indicative of what I think is a little bothersome. One scene is something that isn't in the movie, but I would imagine was on the cutting room floor. Is an example of what I'm talking about because it's a banquet that
Mm.
that Leto and Paul hold in Arrakeen, the city of Arrakis, and it's inviting all the nobles of Arrakis, the smugglers, all of the political groups involved, and it's kind of sussing out who they can trust, who the spy is that they don't know is Dr. Yui, but we'll get to that. Um, where they can forge alliances, if they can trust Liet Kynes, the leader of the Fremen and the Imperial Ecologist. It's something that I think should have been in the film. If they
Mm.
cut out every other political, like, adjacent thing, I do think this banquet should have been in there. At least, as like a courtesy.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Not the courtesy. But jokes aside, I do think it's an important scene to have in. I think it builds a grander sense of richness that I think was a little bit lacking in that department. Um, the second scene I want to talk about is the worm scene.
Okay.
Uh, so this is the scene that Stace really helped me kind of articulate, and I made a comparison with Game of Thrones, and I'll do it again. When I was reading the first Game of Thrones, the moment when Ned cuts off I'm sorry, when Ned executes the 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 Night's Watch member who abandons his post.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, he has a conversation with his son about honor and duty and loyalty, and sometimes doing one's duty is not about, doing what you want. I don't want to kill this man, but it's part of my duty to do so, right?
Yeah.
And the the substance of that contributes to Bran, right? Like, this is who he's learning from. This is who he kind of wants to be, a man who does his duty, a knight. Um, and it's a narrative building technique, right?
Yeah.
And the discussion of the White Walkers takes a back seat. In the show, it's
Right.
completely reversed. So they talk about the White Walkers. Ned Stark like kneels down in front of his son. He says, "You understand why I had to do it, right?" And then they go straight to the baby dire wolves. Um,
Mm.
and that scene feels like an amount of substance is lost, right? I feel
Yeah.
like the priority is not in the right spot. Um, so all this hemming and hawing, and I'll get to the point.
Mm.
The worm scene.
Yes.
So it's a scene that happens pretty much like bit for bit every single time it's adapted in the Lynch version, in the miniseries, in this version. Uh, we meet we meet Liet Kynes, the Imperial ecologist, who they're trying to get help from with rebuilding the spice farming. Liet Kynes does the still suit thing. uh, they get into one of the ornithopters and they fly over um, a or a spice harvester. It's sabotaged. A sandworm is coming. They rescue everyone. They get away. That is the bare bones of what happens, right? So if
Yeah.
you're trying to explain to someone like what happens in the scene, just copy and paste what I said. So what I have a problem with is the importance of that scene. If I had
Mm.
said what that scene is and then asked you what the importance of it was, you would have to make it up based on how you're shown that scene, right? Based on
Mm.
like
Mm-hmm.
what the director says is important. Um I feel like again a significant amount of substance is lost in this scene and
Mm.
captures the wrong importance. Funnily enough, I didn't think I'd ever say this. I actually think the original movie, the Lynch movie, encapsulates this scene better than this movie does. Um,
Okay.
because the importance of this scene isn't the worm, it's the relationship between Paul, Leto, and Kynes. Because this isn't just a tour of a spice harvester. This is Liet Kynes, the imperial ecologist, and someone who wants people to fuck off Arrakis to slowly make it a better place, is scoping out the Atreides.
Mm.
This is like, I'm sizing these fuckers up. Like, the Harkonnens were bad, but these posh fucking people are probably not any better. And then they have a bit of a rapport. They kind of investigate one another in the original movie.
Mm.
So what's being emphasized is the dialogue, right? I
Right.
know David Lynch kind of cheats a bit when he has the internal monologuing stuff. So Denis Villeneuve is kind of on the defense, right? There's not much that he can do necessarily, so he probably should add scenes to help him. But in the original film, the interview or the investigation or the little battle of wits is going on while they're doing this tour, and then the spice harvester is damaged, and then we see this the worm is coming, right? And a couple things happen. The Lynch movie specifies that Leto is on a secret, unlicensed vessel that isn't like showing his whereabouts, right? So he's
Mm.
anonymous. So he's hidden. And on top of that, the spice harvester is damaged, uh, and he makes a big stink about rescuing the people, spice be damned. So there are two things that he does that Liet Kynes notices. He points out that, or he doesn't point out, he reveals himself to make sure that the people get safe or are saved, and then he puts the lives of people over the product. And this helps Liet Kynes come to the Atreides kind of side, or at least makes him more sympathetic to them. Uh, but there are things within these scenes that push you in that direction. That this is kind of like a little bit of a game of wits. Oh, hold on, against my better judgment, I like this man because he cares more about this. I feel like this movie and this scene in particular is a very good way of kind of judging or getting an idea or testing the waters with the rest of the movie, because the scene in the 2021 Dune is far more focused on the set piece of getting the people off the spice harvester and seeing the worm. Like, don't get me wrong, almost the exact same things happen in these scenes. A bit of a dialogue, the guy, Leto saying damn the spice, but the emphasis on what's important I think matters. Because
Mm.
the 2021 version is more of a set piece. An action Not an action set piece, but a spectacle set piece
Right.
that foregoes, I think, some of the nuance of these characters. And I think it's indicative of some of the other things that happen in this too, because Liet Kynes is reduced to nothing more than a betraying idiot who just gets his head chopped off, which I feel isn't really fair to the character at all. Uh, I think as well. I'm going to go into a completely separate critique. I did not care for this version of Lady Jessica.
Mm.
Uh, I Let me first point out that I really do enjoy the actress Rebecca Ferguson. I think her performance in this is good. I feel like her direction is that of, like, I feel like she's directed to be uh, I don't know how to say it without coming off kind of like an asshole. Very very outwardly emotional in a way that I didn't expect. I don't necessarily mind this. I just always read the character as uh caring but stern on the outside, and emotionally ruckus on the inside. And I felt like it hurt her character that she's like crying a good portion of the time, or heaving and hawing in kind of like a kind of patronizing kind of way. Anyway,
Mm.
uh to the point. I feel as though I asked you earlier, uh if Boromir died in the second the second novel, and you
Yeah.
said yes. And I ultimately think that Boromir dying in the first movie serves the trilogy better.
Yeah.
and it came to my mind as I was thinking about this that I don't necessarily need an exact copy of the Dune novel, but I really did wish that there were things that were encapsulated better, or not encapsulated, but I feel as though the movie could have taken more liberties so long as uh as I think the gist of what the story was about, some political machinations, some superhero fantasy, and then some superhero deconstruction. And I don't think it quite delivered on that level for me.
Mm.
Uh, Ultimately, I think the problem lies a little bit with Jason Momoa's Duncan, Idaho. Some of that. Uh, Gurney Halleck, played by Josh Brolin, Thufir Hawat by Stephen Henderson, Dr. Yui by, I'm looking him up right now, Chang Chen. And you know what? I'll say it too. I do
Mm.
think even Lady Jessica by Rebecca Ferguson. All four of these characters, I can take the sidelining of Peter DeVries if I have to,
Okay.
but I think all four of these characters, uh, the elevating of Duncan Idaho's character is to all of these characters, not demise, but detriment.
Interesting.
Duncan Idaho has a significantly increased uh, capacity in this film. In the books, he is a friend of Paul's, same as he is in the movie. He is a swords master. He is a very charismatic character, but he has a few scenes, and he is a main character in later books. Spoiler alert! But he does not have a large presence in this movie, and it's odd because w- during day after the sack of Arakeen, in the following chapters,
Mm.
um, Thufir Hawat and Gurney Halleck, we actually follow them, and we don't follow Duncan Idaho. We follow him once he meets up with Paul, Jessica, and Lee at Kynes, and
Oh.
then he dies. Spoiler alert. But they reverse it in the film where we don't know what happens to Thufir. He might as well be a like an extra in this fucking show or in this movie.
Yeah.
And and Gurney Halleck, shit. I mean, I know that they're going to tease him in the next movie, or they're probably going to show him later on the next movie. But he, I don't know. I felt like they kind of took these characters and gave Duncan more time, and I can understand why. You need to give him a bit of an emotional through line because of his relationship to Paul, and because he does die. He dies a little underwhelmingly in the book, and they give him like, a last samurai fucking ending in this one where he gets stabbed to the fucking chest, pulls out the sword, and then he literally Boromir's. So the point to when I was asking about Boromir is, and when I was saying I don't mind if things are altered so long as the general point is maintained, I would not have mind if they altered where Duncan dies in the movie.
Mm.
He dies pretty much the same like time as in the book, but I feel like they could have consolidated that somewhere else. I think the sacking of Arakeen would have helped.
Yeah.
So I have a couple problems with. Oh, shit ass, I almost dropped something.
Whoa.
Saved it with my Fremen powers. Um, God, I'm finding a lot of things that I haven't. I'm taking minor issue with. Again, at the end of the day, to anyone listening, these criticisms I think are only conditional based on when I see the next film.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my head, as I mentioned to you when we left the theater. I would like a movie that backtracks a little bit. So we see stuff. The beginning of the movie is probably set before the sacking of Arakeen, where we deal more with the Harkonnens.
Yeah.
There are reports that Chani is going to be the main character, and I think that's a great idea because I would like to see through Chani's eyes Paul's effect on the Fremen. Because I want to point out for anyone who's not a reader of Dune, Paul is the protagonist, but he is not the hero of this story. Paul is a kid who knew through no fault of his own is given prescient powers to see the future and near godlike powers. And he uses them to get revenge, and that's fine, but he radicalizes an entire civilization of people to do in doing so. That's the story. That's who Liet Kynes is. Liet Kynes is the antithesis of Paul. Liet Kynes wants to slowly, methodically terraform the planet, destroying the spice and freeing Arrakis from, these outsiders. And this 20-year-old sad-faced twink comes along and pulls a jihad on the entire universe. So that's the story of Dune, long story short. So again, it's conditional on the second one because I want to see through Chani's eyes his effect on her people. And
Yeah.
that would mean that we would also have time, a significant amount of time, to get to know the Harkonnens.
Yeah.
Because at this point in the book, uh, we already have to introduce another character. We have to introduce Feyd-Rautha, otherwise known as Sting.
Ooh.
Feyd-Rautha is the foil for Paul. He's the 15-year-old Baron's nephew, whereas Paul is the 15-year-old Duke's son.
Yeah.
We have him to introduce, and we also have to get more time in with uh, Dave Bautista,
Right.
and we also have to get more political machinations between them and the Emperor. So it's like I would like to see that. I would really like to see more time with these characters and a little more fleshing out of some of the political stuff there. Um, ultimately, ultimately, I thought it was an enjoyable film. I liked it. When I think about it more and more as a movie, I am not disappointed. When I think about it in relation to the book, I grow a little more disappointed, which I'm trying not to. I'm very much trying to enjoy it for the spectacle that it is, and it is a spectacle, ladies and gentlemen. Keep that in mind. And it still keeps the focus of the story pretty well. Um, but I grow more disappointed with some of the things that they cut out, and it kind of fucks with the foundation of the story a bit. Harry?
Yeah. I'm here.
Harry?
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, good. You didn't
I'm
fall
just
asleep, did you?
no. I'm listening. It's just
Yeah.
I don't want to. Yeah. Let you do
No,
that.
no.
Cool.
Hey, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
I just I'm sure I'll find a couple more things that I point out in my next couple of watchings that I'd like to talk about.
Hmm.
But I did enjoy this movie, and again, for anyone who does listen to this, and for Harry as well, just
Yeah.
because I say a lot of this stuff does not mean I don't like the movie. It's because I like it that I am harsh on it, and I'm again, this is all conditional, and it's all based on what the second one offers.
Right.
This is, after all, part one, and I am looking forward to part two. And once the second one is out, I think we'll have a better idea of what the franchise will look like.
Mm.
Because ultimately, I want them to follow through with it. I don't want any happy endings necessarily. I want this to be the story of you know of a boy who shouldn't have the power that he has and uses it.
Mm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that's my talk. And I didn't want to
Sick.
take up the entire stream or podcast. So
No, no, it's
let's
fine.
find. Yeah, it's okay.
um,
Because I was going to ask what your opinion is.
I mean, like you said, we watched this together at the IMAX and stuff. So we discussed a little bit uh afterwards, and I still feel the same. Like I really like the movie. I'm
Oh
excited for
yeah.
part two.
Oh
I
yeah.
I think what stuck out to me, and something that I told you that night, was the CG looked so real. Like the
Oh yeah.
only, like I told you that night, the moment I realized that, like I didn't pay attention to it till I saw bad CG, which was when the balloons went off. That's when I
Yeah,
was
I
like,
think
oh, that I
every
can
movie's got to
tell.
have that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell, like, oh wait, that's right. Most of this is CG, and that was the only thing that really stuck out to me. That I was like, oh, that didn't really either didn't render right or just didn't look real. It
Mhm.
looked, you can tell CG, but it was like, but everything else looked so real. Like everything else
Oh
looked
yeah.
spot on, and that really stuck to me when watching the movie. And just adding to and I said this that night too, where maybe a lot of the for example, what you're saying, like why he talked about how like he should have just married Lady Jessica or whatever. I think maybe in that scene they had to have it in the theatric version, but like if you get, I'm pretty sure they can come out with an extended version where they're
Don't
gonna
don't
have a
don't give me hope.
they do it
Don't.
all the time. I'm pretty sure they're gonna come out with an extended version with a lot more of the political side of this movie
Mhm.
in there, where like I said that night, what people want to see going to the movies is going to be different than what people who want to come and watch Dune for Dune, right? A lot of people are going to go and just watch the movie and be like, oh, that was a good movie, and then probably
Absolutely.
not really think about it afterwards. Where like people like us, we're like, that was a really good movie. I want
Mhm.
more, right? And
Lot.
and the extended version is going to be, for us, right? Where it's going to have a lot more in movie that's going to be, I think, more political, more of the quote
More
unquote
fleshing
boring.
out.
Yeah, more of the fleshing out, more of the quote unquote boring stuff, right? That like your average moviegoer is not going to really like. Why is all this here? Kind of stuff. Um,
I think I appreciate some of that because I feel ultimately I do feel that the Lord of the Rings theatrical edition
mhm.
is a superior, I think, general product.
Yeah.
Like I think it just it flows better.
Yes.
But I do think the extended versions are supremely more enjoyable experiences.
Yeah, and I told you that night too. Like that's where I kind of have the idea because it's so hard for me to watch the theatrical now compared
Mm.
to the extended because
Oh
it's
yeah.
there's so much missing. There's so much story missing uh from the extended version that it's like watching the extended version, you're like, oh, I didn't know that. That's fucking awesome. And then you watch all three and it's a whole new movie, right? Because there's
Oh
so
yeah.
much more lore from the world that was not there before. Um, but going back to Dune, I think obviously, like I said beforehand, I didn't read the book, right? And I didn't. I vaguely remember the original Dune, so like I'm just going off of this one, and I feel like I agree with all your points.
Mm.
If I remember correctly. I think I agree with all your points on it, and I'm also excited for part two, and
Oh yeah.
I'm looking for. And I think we just something that I brought up before. I love that um the trailers were all the visions,
Oh yeah.
like
Yep.
like
That
most
was a that
of.
was a nice trick.
Yeah, I was like, okay, we basically know the story because of the trailer, right? But it's not. Most of those scenes are just visions. They're not the actual plot of the story. And I think you might have brought it up, but I know you brought it up that night where you're talking about how um the person he ends up, spoiler alert, the person he ends up killing at the end of the movie is
Well,
actually, he was getting
yeah.
visions of this guy, of how he's going to teach him the ways of the desert.
Mhm.
And
I
and and,
I
and if,
love that.
and if you think about it, he really did, right? He
Yeah.
taught him that you need, like, the way of the Fremen, of, like, when you get into this sort of battle, like, someone has to die. And
Yeah.
and Jessica's even like, oh, Paul's never killed a man. It's like, well, this is the time, that he has to, like, this is the time to, if he's gonna kill someone, like, unfortunately he's in a, you know uh
Do it.
he's, yeah, so it's like,
I liked that. I
mhm,
liked that a lot. That was an addition that wasn't in the book that I liked. See,
mhm,
that's the thing is that when they strayed a little bit for like a moment, I
yeah,
liked that. There's a moment in the the movie that's not in the book where Piter is talking to the Sardaukar,
mhm,
the Imperium forces, and the design for the fucking Sardaukar, that like double like deeped voice, the brutal rain, the like the almost Warhammer 40,000 vibe the Sardaukar give off, and their
yeah,
like debate, their little one-on-one for like a couple minutes, that was really good. And back to Jammies or Jammies.
yeah,
Uh Jammies is like a bitch in the books. Like he's a guy who's like, he's the same character, and the actor does a great job encapsulating that. But like, I love that he has more visions and they're more interspersed throughout the entire movie. And
mhm,
then he sees this character who's like, "Oh, hey, you're my friend. Oh, hey, we're gonna teach you the desert." And then like he sees him in real life, Jemmies, and then they just fight and he has to kill him. Like that happens in the book, but
mhm,
none of the visions do. And I like that because then it sours, or not sours, but it forces us to consider how we see Chani,
right,
because we also have scenes where it's like lovey-dovey and then she
right,
stabs him and all this other stuff that like that I love because it's so in line with the stuff that he talks about, where it's like he keeps seeing these branching futures where like Duncan is alive and he's helping them fight, or like the paths that he can see. And I really enjoy that we can actually visualize that now.
yeah,
That's what I'm saying, is that it's like there's stuff that isn't in the books, and I like some of it. I really like it when they go outside of that comfort zone a little bit. I
yeah,
just wish, like, you know, they put more effort into talking about or showing the Fremen culture, which I don't mind. I like the Fremen. I like
mhm,
how they did some of that. But like they put so much effort into copying that scene and got that scene right, with Stilgar talking about the way of their rituals and their cultures and how they fight, and the Sayadina,
mhm,
and and then kind of fubble around with other stuff.
yeah.
But yeah, like
I think
fucking
I was gonna say
go ahead.
a good comparison is basically, if you remember in the movies Lord of the Rings, s- uh, let's say Saruman, but Gandalf goes at it with the Witch King, and basically the Witch King is like overpowering him, right? Like at the end,
Yeah.
in Return of the King, that actually doesn't really happen in the books. It's actually the reverse. Like Gandalf is super powerful, and
Mhm.
he basically kind of like shows off the Witch King. And I think it it's just kind of like those like what's the like if Gandalf could just tell one of the most powerful like beings in Mordor to fuck off, like what's the point of this whole war, right? Shouldn't Gandalf just be able to go
There
in and
has to
just
be a little conflict in there. There has to be a little struggle.
yeah, where like if Gandalf is having issues with the Witch King, it's like okay, like there's some seriousness to it, right? So I
Yeah.
think it works better. Like you know, lore wise in the Middle Earth lore, right? Not just Lord of the Rings, but the entire lore, of Middle Earth. Like it makes sense that Gandalf, like someone like Gandalf, is there, right? It just makes sense because there are more powerful beings than Gandalf in the world. It's just the Witch King
He's up
isn't.
there.
Yeah. So it's like but in Lord of the Rings, as a small universe, just Lord of the Rings, it doesn't make sense because it's like
Yeah.
he should just be able to do his thing, right? But it's like I don't know. It's kind of like the whole like why didn't they just take the Eagles to Mordor kind of thing, right? So it's like at least
That
with
goddamn.
at least with like Gandalf and the Witch King, at least they made again. I believe this is part of the extended version. I'm not quite sure. I have to look at it. I haven't seen the theatrical version in a while, but that's one of the things that they've input, right? Where Gandalf gets kind of like messed up with um by the Witch King. But it's just one of
Yeah.
those, books to movies kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So
It's the thing is, okay, it's like what you and I always not always talk about. We've talked about this before. I
mhm,
mentioned The Stand to you when we came out of the movie, and I mentioned it to you when we reviewed it, where it's
yeah.
like, what's the point of just copying the book if you
Hmm.
don't that this is going to sound mean. It's not what I'm trying to say. What's the point of copying the book if you don't understand what the plot beats are?
Right.
Because that's the thing is that like uh, I don't mind if the plot beat isn't the exact same. What I mind is that it happens and it happens for the right reason and they understand why it happens.
Hmm.
That's the thing. Because I prefer the nuance of it and not the action of it, right?
Yeah.
So it sucks when you see something and it's following the story plot or plot point by plot point, right? But it's like it feels like something's just missing. Like how can something that's copying the story feel like it's missing? And I think that's the trick of adapting mediums is that you know I mentioned earlier Lynch kind of cheated because that internal monologue that everyone fucking hates in the movie is
Hmm.
in the book. And it makes sense in the book, but it doesn't make sense when you're watching it in film.
Yeah.
But the thing is you have a greater clarity of what's being focused on. Like I was saying, it's not the sandworm, it's the trust that is being made between those characters, right?
Yeah.
So how do you do that in something like Dune without changing it? And that's the problem
Mm,
is that you can't. And I have no problem with them adding stuff to
right.
accommodate that. There's take fucking I'm on a Game of Thrones bender. I'll do it again.
Yep.
Take take the first season of Game of Thrones when fucking Jamie is constantly having confrontational shit before the sword fight with Ned.
Hmm.
That is some of the fucking best shit between the two of them, and there's barely any interaction between the two of them in the book other than that sword fight.
Right.
But like there's some real like conflict between the two of them in the show in those first couple of episodes. I love that bit in the throne room when Jamie's talking about like Brandon and Rickard getting killed. And it's like if you read the book, you know he he didn't enjoy that.
Mhm.
Like for anyone who doesn't know, Jamie was a member of the Kingsguard for the Mad King. The Mad King would like assault his wife every night, and like he would talk to his like other Kingsguard, and they'd be like, "We have to protect the king, not protect the queen," and shit like that. And he would like go into a dissociative state. So it's so heartbreaking, and it adds so much more nuance when you see these scenes and he's talking to Ned, the one guy who might actually understand what swallowing your pride and doing the right thing means, right?
Mhm.
Because Jamie and Ned are so much more alike than people want to give them credit for. But the fact that they have to hide these secrets, right,
Yeah.
is what sucks. So Jamie's going up to Ned and he's saying, like it sounds like he's taunting Ned for his brother and his father's death, but he talks about killing the Mad King as penance, right? And Ned just fucking shuts him the fuck down. And this is just like the visions with Jamis, where it's like that that was a conflict and an interaction that I think enriched the story, and it was
Mhm.
because of the television medium.
Yeah.
It was something that was there in Jamie's arc. It was something that was there for him as a character, but it was something that the movie had to flesh out, or the shows had to flesh out in a different way. And that's what I think the visual storytellers, like filmmakers, have to learn to do. And I have no problem with people trying to innovate or add more scenes to express that, because I would
Mhm.
always prefer that than them having to cut so much more shit.
Yeah. No, totally agree. I mean,
So yeah,
but
I'm just glad you liked it at the end of the day, because
mhm.
again, I'm bitching and moaning. I like Game of Thrones and I do like Dune. I
Mhm.
like this movie and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah,
And I
no,
want to
same
see
here.
what they add to it. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm I'm pretty sure there's going to be extended edition. It just, but you never know, right? But I'm hoping
Funny enough,
there's,
I was
huh? Go ahead.
actually looking at a tab where Villeneuve, the director, also another thing that I enjoyed was his directing.
Mhm.
You can tell that he does like this series. He said he grew up with it.
Mhm.
Um, he was talking about how it broke his heart to cut like some scenes. Title Cinema Blend. The Dune scene Denis Villeneuve had to cut that's still painful to him. So
Oh.
I'm interested in giving this a read. And yeah, apparently there's I think it was Momoa that was talking about releasing the extended edition, or the director's cut. I'm
Mhm.
just like, man, this guy really loves fucking releasing the something cut.
Yeah. Mhm. But
You know what? I you know what I think got me was, I think there's more than just the worm scene. There are parts in the David Lynch version that I think actually are smarter.
mhm.
As clunky as that fucking opening scene is, having all three of the characters, Gurney, Thufir, and Yui, all come in at the same time and chit chat with Paul, that was smart. That was a great way of introducing these characters in an interesting way
Mhm.
and not getting bogged down.
Yeah.
Because here's the problem, is that they copy how that happens in the book. All of them are introduced individually and have their own little cute scene, and I don't think it helps, and I don't think it was a smart use of time. Whereas
Mhm.
it's interesting where it's like the fucking David Lynch version. I can't believe I'm fucking saying this. The laugh out loud fucking movie that fucking botches its ending actually like juggles its characters better, I think,
Mhm.
in some ways. Like, don't get me wrong, fucking Duncan gets a bullet to the back of the head and like his like character is squandered. But I do think there are characters that are juggled and utilized to some of their fullest extents way better.
Mm.
Yeah. Anyway, do you want to
Yeah.
keep talking about Dunny or do we want to talk about something else?
Um. Yeah. I was gonna try to say some bad stuff about this movie, but I really don't have any. I honestly don't. Usually I
Okay.
have literally the only thing was like that one scene with the CGI, but it wasn't even bad. Like it really wasn't. It's just it's
It's
for
just like,
example,
oh, here's your weaker parts, right?
yeah, like for example, Olivia was talking about how like part that she noticed was with when in the vision where he's fighting all the people in the desert and then his face opens up, like his helmet opens up, how that one look, that CGI looked bad too, or didn't look like real, right? But I was saying that like it's so hard to make that look real. Like if you think of any movie with CGI that has like that, like a big example is Iron Man. Like you can tell
Oh
it's
yeah.
CGI. It's just
Mhm.
so hard to not have that look fake because
Mhm.
it's just there's no like I'll say prosthetics, but there's no like um what's the word there's
You
no
got this.
not system. We don't have like a mechanism that does that, right? Like no one's gonna willfully put a helmet that opens and closes like that because
Mhm.
it might not go well, right? Like to have the
Oh yeah.
hydraulics for that and shit like that, like, and no one's, you know what I mean? Like, there's no practical effects that you can utilize to, to do that with. It's just,
Yeah.
it's hard to have that not CGI. It's just really hard. So like, when I saw that, it went over my head because I'm like, that's one of those um scenes or one of those things that I just already mentally know that it's not going to look 100%
Yeah.
real. So I already it doesn't go with me, but that is another part that you can tell CGI, but it's just to me personally, I'm like, I already know it's not going to look real, so it goes over my head every single time. And
Yeah.
I told Livy the one time that I know it's gonna like not go over my head is when it looks real. The
Yeah.
one time that happens and it looks real, I'm gonna notice it. I'm gonna be like, holy shit, that looked real. I want to know how they did it, right? But again, no real criticisms here for it from me. Again, I'm going, I'm coming into it not knowing the book and not really remembering the original movie, so I think that's a good thing, because I have no past experience with Dune, and I'm just going in it, watching it for the first time, and
Hey,
it's oh, it's
you
good.
have experience now.
Now I do, and it was a
Yeah.
good experience. It was a fantastic experience. So yeah, that's it. I mean, that's my take on it, man. It was great. Uh, if I had to rate it, if I had to rate it, it had to be, it has to be like a 9 minimum.
Ooh. I'd go with an 8.
Yeah, for me again, for me a 9 because I think everything flowed very well. I think whatever did lack, they did so many good things that it just went. It just I just didn't really focus on the bad, right? Like if there was any bad writing or things that didn't make sense, like everything else is just great, and like the little tidbits that happened, I just really liked. Like um we're discussing, right? The joke, like, oh, you put on, muscle? Like, oh, have I? Like, no, what I mean? Like
No
when we,
great role. That shit wasn't the entire movie too.
exactly, and that the trailers just threw everyone off, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that was fantastic because like that's one thing that there is another movie that did that where the trailers just were nothing like what the movie was, and that's what made the movie great, right? Because the trailers didn't ruin everything. Where usually nowadays trailers ruin the movie because you basically are just waiting for those plot points to happen, and that's that, right? And
Hmm.
another thing that ruins it, and you said it that night, is when movies are trying to be funny, right? They're just
I
doing that
think
for too long.
I was
Yeah,
worried because when I saw the trailer, I thought, "Oh man, they're pulling a Marvel. Oh god,
yeah.
this is going to be like a plucky space adventure with like jokes." And I'm
Hmm.
so glad that it wasn't.
And
I'm
honestly,
glad that there was like the occasional laugh, but it was nowhere near like fucking Guardians of the Galaxy laughter every 5 minutes kind of thing.
yeah, like don't get me wrong, those movies are great on their own, you know, way, but I also really like that this movie was more serious. Like it was a serious sci-fi movie. And I don't see a lot of those, and I thought it was great. It was a change of pace when it comes to things that we watch now because everyone wants to have these jokes and be funny or have this like comedic relief character and like
Middle of the ground, middle of the road.
yeah, and I'm glad that that was the only joke in the movie, and it shows their relationship, right?
Yeah.
Like that
Oh yeah.
joke was to show that how like they've known each other for a while and they're really close and they can joke around that way. Where if you see every other character, there's no real joking, right? Like everyone's so
Mhm.
serious and stuff like that. And
Like there's a bit of lighthearted stuff with Gurney, but it's
right,
nowhere near like the brotherly joke
exactly.
that Paul has with him.
Hmm. So,
I was talking I feel like I mentioned a movie with Kate Beckinsale a while ago where like she shocks herself because she has like
mm,
anger issues and she shocks herself. And I'm getting to a point with this, I swear.
right. Mm,
Um, I feel like everything about that movie kind of sucked.
mhm,
Like it wasn't a good dark comedy. It wasn't a good action film. It wasn't even like a good body horror because that would be a solid body horror because she's got like
mhm,
anger issues and they could have done like some adrenaline themed thing. Um John Wick has some of the best action sequences and they're
mhm.
filmed by a really competent filmmaker, right?
Yeah,
So if anything else fails, they can always rely on the action, right?
yeah.
Uh, you know, I'm when you mentioned the comedy, I was thinking to myself, it sucks that so many films kind of go for the uh let's appeal to everyone in case we don't
Hmm.
appeal to anyone kind of thing.
Agreed.
And I feel like appealing to someone is better than appealing to no one in the end of the day. And I appreciate that they steered away from some of the comedy and I hope that they stay true to the ending because I feel like even though that won't be a very attractive prospect to American audiences, I
Hmm.
do think it's something that people will appreciate instead of
Yeah.
something that's like a middle of the road, uh, passable movie.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
Like the MCU. Ha!
Exactly.
Did I say that out loud?
Um.
I mean, to be fair, I am looking forward to the Eternals.
Okay.
The director just got an Academy Award for Best Director, and I'm hoping that she breaks a bit of the mold.
Hmm.
Although
I think.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, from the trailer of the Eternals, we know there's gonna be some comedic relief, but hopefully, I mean, that's the thing though. Like Marvel has hit their stride with like having the comedy in there, but like still being superhero movies. So I think it'll be fine. But it, I also hope, I don't know. After seeing this movie, I hope I can see more movies like it because I think there's been enough comedy in movies. Like it's just I don't know. Like it's kind of like
Like the thing is
expected.
that like I don't even find the comedy that like it's good. I
Yeah.
enjoy it, but it's so very like every 5 minutes, and I feel like it takes away from some of the really good jokes that could just land. You
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
I would rather I would rather there be one really good gimmick in a movie than like 50 small jokes. And I think that's kind of the problem that got me with part of Shang-Chi too, where it was like
Mm,
I was enjoying it, and then like the later half of the movie was just so much more committed to doing like jokes, I think,
mm.
with Trevor, Slattery, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I get you.
Yeah. So I'm hoping they go more towards the serious side. It seems like that type of movie. It seems like it's going to be a more serious one, which I think would be great. Like I like the more serious stuff, with I guess with certain characters. Like I feel like Guardians of the Galaxy is just like the way they have Quill being like he is, you know what I mean? Like it just seems like he's going to be more towards a comedy and
I think the biggest example of that isn't necessarily Quill, but Ant-Man,
yes, I
because
think that is a great yes.
the biggest disappointment is watching Ant-Man 1 and then just seeing him just morph into like this useless idiot
Mhm.
in in the subsequent films who
Mhm.
like literally just says nothing but the stupidest thing every moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. We'll
Yeah,
absolutely fucking see.
this is very true.
Mm.
But um you good with Dune? Moving on to the next topic. I don't know if you have anything else you're ending.
Until we see the next fucking movie.
Okay, sounds good.
What's in the
Um
box?
what's in the box?
Alright, no, I'm done. I'm really done. Let's fucking move. Let's do
Mm.
this. Come on.
Side note, I forgot to mention while I was encapsulated in that hotel room, I tried to download a game and the internet was so slow and I never got to actually finish downloading that game while I was there.
And
Um
it's downloaded now.
oh yeah, it's downloaded now and I already beat it and
What,
everything. But
what is it?
it
What
was
is it?
Modern Warfare, the 2019 one, the single player.
Oh, okay.
I was like, "Oh, I can get the trophies for this and platinum it like while I'm quarantined in this hotel." Yeah, no. Was nope, didn't happen. It
You poor
ended by the time we left, it was at like 40 hours left.
thing.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Oh,
So,
but we gotta.
it was at 99 plus hours for a while. But yeah, that's
What is
another thing.
wrong with your fucking setup, dude?
I, that's not my fault. That is the hotel, all right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
um
Sure. Blame it on the customer service.
um okay, so we're going to talk about the Twitch leak. I know you mentioned that in the beginning. So, this is I don't know how much you know of what was released and what people have been talking about or whatever.
People make a lot of money.
Yeah, some do, yes. Um,
I know the in-depth stuff all that much. I knew jokes aside, I do know that it kind of contextualizes how much everyone makes. Holy fuck, Hassan makes a shitload of fucking money.
mhm.
But yeah, money making. I didn't really take the time to get all that much into what else.
So basically, the entire like programming of Twitch was released. So that
Okay.
obviously included what people were making, but that that's to me it's just everything. Everything
Huh.
that is Twitch, the website, was put onto the internet. So like, yes, passwords were
Cool.
released, but the thing is, they're all like asterisks, so they couldn't really. see the password, right? Um, but it's just everything of Twitch was put onto the internet, which is to me the biggest thing, right? Um, but with obviously the biggest discussion of after that happening is how much streamers make, right? The top, I believe, 5,000 or something like that, or top 1,000 or something like that, or top 10,000. Something. It was a good significant amount of people, right?
Right.
And that was the biggest discussion. Streamers make quote unquote too much money, right? I don't know how you feel about it. But people were comparing to doctors, right? Like these streamers are getting paid as much as doctors. They're getting paid more than firefighters and all these essential workers and whatnot, right? And I it's true. They are being paid like doctors. They are being paid more than EMTs, firefighters are essential workers, right? People who,
Yeah.
are keeping us safe and protecting us and all that stuff like that. I agree. They do make more than them, but do I believe they get paid too much?
Mm.
I don't I don't believe so. Now hear me
Mm.
out. Okay?
Okay. Got my
Do
big
you
boy earrings on.
do you believe that actors get paid too much?
uh, maybe. Yeah,
Maybe. Okay.
depending.
Do you
Uh,
believe certain, like, just entertainers are being paid too much? Like, in general, entertainers.
yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
The
So,
thing is that I would prioritize. I would say that it's not so much that I believe that they're being paid too much. I believe that there is a priority uh that is hurting like people who should be getting paid proportionate to
mhm.
what they do in terms of the severity of what they do or the importance of what they do.
So it's not about how much they're getting paid. It's that there are certain people that are not getting paid enough, right?
Yes,
Okay.
because like if you if you are a Twitch personality
Mm-hmm.
and your brand is your personality, there is a degree of like hmm, there is somewhat of a trade-off.
Mm-hmm.
So, all things said, you are putting yourself out, and depending on how popular you are, people are willing to donate money, and people should be able to donate money if they want. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it should you should donate if you're gonna go fucking poor or if you're like negatively hurting other people by doing it. But there's something intimate or individual about like taking what you have and donating it to one person. And should there be a cap on the amount of people who want to contribute to you? No, I don't necessarily think so. I do think that there should be a cap on like how much you can make, maybe, before you have to like submit some of that to taxes. I also think a great countermeasure to that is taxes. Seriously, if you make a shitload of fucking money, depending on what you do, you should be taxed. And I
Mm-hmm.
think if you are someone like a doctor, if you are someone like a firefighter, if you are someone who typically helps people, saves people's lives, improves people's well-being, I think some of your work should be subsidized, or your pay should be subsidized, as in by the government, as
Mm-hmm.
recognition for the work that you do. Long story to a quick question. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. So I'm not disagreeing with the whole that, right? So you have to
Mhm.
remember that streamers are independent workers.
Yes,
So they are
gig worker.
paying like around 50% of their income to taxes. So all that money that you see on there is they have to pay half of it to taxes already, right?
Mhm.
So there's that alone, right? Now, what you're seeing is, like I said, maybe the top 10,000 or something like that, right? Do you know how many? So I didn't. I've already heard people discuss this. So these numbers are coming from them. Um, there are 11.4 million streamers
Mhm.
on Twitch, right? There are accounts that have streamed at least once. There's 11.4 million of them.
Mhm.
So out of that, ratio wise, 5 out of 1,000 people are making minimum wage,
Yeah.
and 3 out of 1,000 people are making like what you would
Good
call
money.
sufficient enough income to survive.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of fucking people streaming, right? If you make it out of that, right? If you're making money in that platform when there's 11.4 million people, you are on the top, right?
Oh
You're
yeah.
right. And I would throw them in a category like actors, like any star, anybody famous, because they are working harder than most of the people who are getting paid that much. Because if you
Mhm.
look at the statistics, these people are streaming constantly, right?
Yep.
You think about it. Think about working sometimes more than an 8 hour shift. These people sometimes do 24-hour streams, right? Imagine working for a full 24 hours, right?
They're
And then coming
insane.
back. And then you have to remember again, these people don't have a 2 week paycheck. They get paid for when they stream, right?
It's basically commission.
It's a commission, right? So they're streaming 8, 10, 12 hours a day every day sometimes, some of these people, right? And if you say, okay, well, what you think about their social medias? If they have YouTube, they have other platforms that's a lot of work. So it's not just
Yeah.
8, 10, 12 hours a day. It's more. It's basically
Yeah.
when you wake up in the morning until you fall asleep that night. So they're working their asses off, right? And
Mhm.
the way I look at it, it's like you said, it's hard. It's people giving them money basically, right? It's
Right.
not that, they're taking money away from people. It's they're
Paying for personality.
exactly. And that's kind of like a private sector, right? Like people are paying them because they want to see them entertained and whatever and this and that. Um
Mhm.
and if you're up there, if you're fucking you have a lot of eyeballs on you and you are dealing with a lot of these streamers deal with mental health issues, right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
because it's not just all praise. You have a lot of people who are giving you shit. And like of course people in Hollywood deal with the same stuff, and it's the same way through streaming, right?
Yeah.
People
Who's
are
like a Rectful, right? Who committed suicide about a year
I
ago.
believe so, yes.
Yeah.
And it's more common for streamers to talk about it now. Their mental health issues, and there's a lot of people who take month long breaks because they're tired. But you have to think when they take that month long break, they're not getting paid.
Yep.
If like for example, I was out, right? I was out for 2 weeks from work. I'm getting paid those 2 weeks. I didn't go to
Mhm.
work, but I'm getting paid because I have
Mhm.
you know accumulated time off.
And
Um, th-
government guaranteed.
exactly. And
And
streamers,
probably you have a union, I would imagine, right?
no, not with us. Well, I'm just straight from the corporation.
You
Um,
probably should be unioned. But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah. Um, these streamers don't. They,
yeah.
they will if they don't stream, they don't do any social media. They don't work. They're not getting paid.
Yep.
So to me, I don't think they're getting paid too much because
Fair
again,
enough.
they are working to get paid.
Mhm.
And if it's in a commission based, like, am I going to be upset if someone who sells cars is getting overpaid compared to doctors or someone, but he's working his ass off to get commissions? No, because he's working his ass off to get commissions, right? So it
I think,
seems,
see, I think maybe we're looking at this from a different point of view because I don't think health should be commodified. And I don't think like safety should be commodified, right? Like I don't I feel like the role of a doctor shouldn't be something that should be dependent on a paycheck,
so I agree.
right?
We are looking at it differently. So I'm
Yeah.
not disagreeing that
Mhm.
doctors should be getting paid what they're getting paid. They should be getting paid what they're getting paid because they are doctors, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's fine for streamers to get paid the way they get paid. I'm okay with actors to get paid what they're getting paid because the amount of money that they're making for these companies is even more, right?
Yeah.
If a streamer's getting paid a bunch of money, Twitch is getting paid even more. Twitch is making so much money off these streamers because you got to
Hazan.
understand, right? So if Hazan gets paid what he gets paid, you got to remember every subscription that Hazan gets, half of it goes to Twitch.
Yeah.
So whatever he's getting paid, Twitch is getting paid double,
Yeah.
right?
Like I think at the end of the day,
So
I don't think I mind when I think about it now.
yeah,
I just think I think I was probably being a little too general when I was talking about like society's like
yeah.
emphasis on something like this over someone like a doctor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think, if you're making money, you're making money. Good for you. I do
Mm-hmm.
think there should be higher taxes there in that sense. Yeah. And I also think that given what you're saying, half goes to Twitch, 15% self-employment tax, um, and then the gig economy that they kind of are a part of.
Mm-hmm.
I do think there should be some representation for people like that.
Yeah,
A more regulated environment for them to actually thrive.
yeah, and uh, it's just their environment. Again, you have to remember the number 11.4 million people who are
Yeah.
trying to become the next Hazan. But
Yeah.
you know, he got to the position he got where he's at now. It's because he worked harder than any of them. And maybe he has what it takes to get to the point, right? Not everyone is going to have what it takes to get to that point. That's why there isn't 11.4 million people who are making that much money. It's only the top of the top, right? Only again, the numbers, 3 out of 1,000 of them are making not wealth, right? Not wealth, but like what should be, hey, I can survive, the economy with this. I'm not struggling, right? So it's like not not a lot of people are making money off Twitch, off streaming. No.
It's very much like a regular economy.
Mhm.
You have people who are earning like, you know, poverty wages if, you know, assuming that people's livelihoods were dependent on Twitch, you had people who'd be
Yeah.
earning poverty wages. You'd be people who would be earning minimum wage, and you'd have the people who are ultra wealthy.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is that when people talk about society in general,
Mhm.
I don't mean to expand this out of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, the problem isn't the people who have the money, or I don't think it's the rich people that are the problem. I think that's where a lot of people tend to get a little misguided.
Mhm.
Um, and it's the environment that allows these people to make this much money and that allows this large disparity, right? So
Mhm.
it's like Hasanabi, I like some of his streams. I like that he's a socialist who like pushes for socialist ideas. I don't care that he bought a fucking $3 million house. Who
Mm-hmm.
gives a shit?
Yeah.
If he is out there like putting in the work as a streamer, yeah, that's a pretty fucking taxing thing to do. He's probably got a bunch of people managing his other accounts too. That's some pretty fucking psychotic shit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and no one on the planet, I think, is mentally adapted to handle that many people. Hassan gets 40,000 people a stream.
That's a lot of people.
A lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets the same amount of criticism too. And it's like the human mind is not capable of just quantifying how many people that is telling you you suck or whatever they love
Yeah.
you or these parallel social relationships. Like there is nothing like when an individual uses parasocial relationships or when an individual is doing all this, sure, yeah, that sucks when that person does it. They're always the highlight of the week, the villain on Twitter.
Yeah.
But I'm more concerned with the environment that allows that to happen.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like again, Hassan can earn however much that the people want to give him, but I do think there should be things in place to prevent some kind of disparity. I'm not trying to say like he shouldn't earn this much. I don't know, maybe I don't know. I'm not entirely sure, but it it's like you were saying, gig economy. It just reminds me of Uber drivers and whatnot and shit like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah, that's a good comparison, right? Like you can do Uber and get paid little, right? Not that
Mhm.
much, or you can do it and just get paid a bunch of money, right? So it's all really anything when it comes to just you yourself, like you get paid for how much work you put into it, right? Like like when I go to work, I can work my ass off and I'm not making extra money. I'm
Yeah,
just
you're
working
earning
my
the
ass
same
off.
amount.
Yeah. And because of a corporation, they're most likely not going to give me a better raise than anyone else. They're going to give me the same shit because it's a
Yeah,
corporation. They care about their stockholders. But streamers, Uber drivers, you name it, right? People who work for themselves, their own bosses, if they want to make more money, they're going to work harder and they're going to get more money. Generally, right? Generally. Um
hmm
and
they can. That's not always the case.
yeah.
Like I mean, you. That's the thing is that I feel like, especially with like the esports community and
Mhm.
with some Twitch streamers, the concept of like their success is equated to them working hard, I think is a lie. Like you have to have networking behind the scenes, you have to mess with the fucking algorithm. It's the same thing on fucking YouTube with live streaming on there. It's like there are a multitude of things that are just luck.
Mhm.
And a large contingent of people on Twitch attribute their success to just be all the hard work that they did. And then they say, well, you just have to do it this way and this way, and then that'll be successful. And then that's bullshit.
Not necessarily cuz where they got to, they did have to work hard, right? If you think about it, to figure out the algorithm or just like what worked for them might not work for the next person. Like I said, you have to have something that attracts people, right? Like
Yeah.
for one of the only streamers that I watch nowadays, Dr. Disrespect, like he had something that no one else had, right?
Yeah.
No one else had this persona that he had, that he said, I'm gonna do this live and stay in character for fucking 8 to 10 hours, right? Staying in character for 8 to 10 hours,
That's
right? Like that's fucking ridiculous. Whatever money he's earning, he deserves because he works his ass off. He's gone through enough fucking hassle. The whole shit that went down with Twitch where he got banned and like all this other shit, right? There's stuff that happened behind the scenes because of that, but you know what I mean? Like there is people who are on the top did work hard.
yes.
Obviously, the way they got there is going to be different. Everyone's going to be different how they got there. Some people have been doing this since fucking 2010, 2009, right? Some people have been doing it for this long, and that
Success.
And everyone says it was a lot easier and it was a lot more fun back then. Now that
Yeah,
everyone's trying to do it again,
it's a rat
I'm
race.
I'm bringing this number back up, dude. 11.4 million people on Twitch streaming. Okay, not everyone's gonna be on the top, right?
Yeah,
Not everyone's gonna be on the top. Same thing with YouTube or Twitter or Instagram, whatever platform you want to name off, dude. Not everyone's gonna make it. You can try your hardest, but it's like when Doctor Disrespect and Hazan are still streaming and still doing their thing. Who are people gonna watch? You, someone who's new and they don't really know, or the people they've been watching for years, decades sometime, right? At this point, it's already been over a decade. Some people have already been streaming, or not streaming, but doing you know just YouTube and you know whatever streaming stuff. Um,
yeah,
so it's like those people have worked hard. They are still working hard. Yes, Hazan has people under him, but again, like you said, he's managing people. Managing isn't easy sometimes, right?
yeah,
Um, and you still have to pay them. So you're making more money, but you're paying people, right? So let's say someone like someone, okay, like you have a YouTube channel and you have a Twitch, right? So you let's say you pay your mods, the people who mod and on the Twitch chat, right? To make sure they ban people who are being assholes and shit, right? You got to pay them, right? And then let's say you pay someone to do your YouTube, you got to pay them out too, right? So you're making more money, but it's just like a business at that point. You're running
yeah.
your own business. Dr.
Uh
Disrespect
huh.
does the same shit, He has his editors, and he's making money off of sponsorships, right? He's sponsored by Mountain Dew on some of the energy drinks and some other stuff, right? He has his sponsorships and stuff like that, but he actually is he's under an agency. So he pays this agency to help maintain his brand. So it's like, yeah, I'm still in the boat of like some of these people should be getting paid what they're getting paid for, because fuck, that is ridiculous to be your own brand and maintain it and be your own boss and manage things, and it's a lot of work, man. Like
Yeah.
so it's like, again, I'm still in the boat of like, I agree, firefighters don't get paid enough. I agree that doctors deserve to get paid what they get paid, but it's like,
I think
I
at
think
the end
it's
of the day, it's a little. I think we're uh, maybe focusing on like because I view this as just like an avenue of internet culture that is just
mm,
making money, and I don't.
yeah.
I think the problem is not the fact that it's going to these people. I think I have a problem with the amount of power that like Amazon wields over Twitch and that Twitch wields over these people. Because
Yeah.
I don't have as much problem. Like we're here talking about like okay, well, should these people be making this much money? And I mean like I might have my opinion. I'm not even sure how fully formed it is, but I'm
Mm,
more concerned with like the power that like the companies that allow this, that perpetuate this, that push this to
right.
have,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know?
it is. So if we think like, so, because not a lot of people are doing this from what I saw. Like for example, at the beginning, I said I compared it to like actors and how much they get paid, right? Same thing with like, you think of sports people, right? You think, oh well, they're putting their bodies on the line. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, well, if you really think about it, so are streamers,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, no,
So
you
it's
are
like,
vulnerable when you like fuse yourself with your brand. When you
yeah,
become the brand,
mm-hmm,
you are you are the product.
mm-hmm,
And there is very little in the way of your own identity at that point.
yeah,
You have to commit.
yeah. So it's just
And I
like,
don't mean to yeah.
yeah, and I'm just comparing it to that because like, dude, athletes get paid a lot of fucking money. So do
Oh
actors,
yeah.
and certain musicians, right? Because they themselves are the brand, right? If you think of an athlete, they're bringing people to the stadium and getting their owners paid, right? So it's like
Mhm.
same thing with like the music, like they're getting the record labels paid, right? Uh, So it's like, in the end, like, are they getting paid too much? I say no. Like, they're so when people are comparing it to like certain doctors and firefighters and teachers and all this stuff, I'm like, that's why it's like the way you have to look at it. It's a private sector and a public sector. Firefighters get paid off of our taxes,
Yeah.
right? And this is the private sector. This is, however, there is no cap, right? Government, it's like, depends on how much we tax. If we want to give these people more money, we have to change things around, maybe tax them more or whatever. The
Mm.
private sector is like whatever the consumer gives us. The consumer gives us $10 billion. Hey, we got $10 billion. You know, there's no cap. Like you said, there's no cap when it comes to the private sector. I think that's the difference between when people are comparing the Twitch streamers to firefighters, doctors, and teachers. It's like, yes, in society, 100%, dude, doctors, firefighters, and teachers are 1,000% more important than Twitch streamers. Because if Twitch streamers just disappeared,
Disappear.
society's gonna be fine, right?
Yeah.
But if all teachers went away, or all doctors, or all firefighters, we're fucked, right? We have to replace them somehow. We have to, do something to get that going. Um, and but economic wise, private sector wise, um, teachers, doctors, they're not bringing in as much money as a Twitch streamer is, right?
Well, see,
The
that's the
amount,
thing is that the like streaming is a business, but
yeah,
like the, that that always gets me because it's
I,
like
I
streaming is a business, but teaching is an investment. It's like it's not supposed to make money. That's the thing.
and I agree. I should have said this first, like, in an economic standpoint, right?
Mm.
In an economic
Yes.
standpoint, a Twitch streamer is going to be more valuable than a teacher because the streamer is making income, right? Like,
Okay, yeah,
yeah,
I think from like a profit standpoint, yes. If
yes,
you're looking at
100%.
measure of a job based on how much it like generates, I
Yes.
suppose, on a yearly basis,
hmm
sure, yeah.
Because a good example that I heard when it comes to teachers is, if you think about private and public, think of a public school and a private school. Private school teachers get paid more. Why? Because people are paying the public or the private school, so they're getting paid more. And the reason why they get paid more is because they're it's a private sector, and the parents are paying for that education,
Right.
and getting a private school position is a lot harder than getting a public school position, because
Yeah.
it pays way more, probably better benefits too. So it's like, you know, if you think about that too, it's like not even just Twitch streamers. It's just like, why are these teachers getting paid more? It's like, well, it's a private sector, like there's more money involved. Like, if there's a specific teacher that um um is really good in this school, they're gonna pay to get that teacher, right? It's the same. Like, if you think of like universities, like if there's certain universities that are specific to certain topics. Let's say like you want to go for I don't know, fuck, I'm
Science
not
or
there.
history or
Yeah, science. Let's say law, right? Harvard Law. Like, let's go law.
Mhm.
It, you're gonna go there for specific law, and if there's specific like lawyer or whatever that's there, that's really good and they're teaching, it's like you want to go there, and they're gonna be paid more than other teachers because they're attracting students. So it's like, economy wise, going back to the Twitch streamers are making that much money because they bring in money, a lot of money. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Fair enough.
so again, you and I are in the same boat when it comes to certain positions not being paid enough. But I personally think that if you're working your ass off and people want to pay you that much money, because again, subscriptions are based off of what viewers put in. So if you're
Yeah,
getting
if
paid
you
that
want
much
to,
off,
yeah,
because again, like I'm sure they're making more money off of because that's just Twitch, right? We're not talking about YouTube, we're not talking about Twitter or anything. Because
yeah,
if you think about it, if they're like, if someone comes up and says, "Hey, if you say this on Twitter, we're gonna pay you this much," okay, why not, right? Sponsors and shit, right? So like they're getting paid off of sponsors to represent whatever they're gonna represent. So that's even more money. But again, it's also taxed and all that stuff. Um, but it's like they're making money elsewhere, and this is just Twitch. But
yeah.
again, Twitch is specific based off of what the viewer wants to put in. So,
Hmm.
and it sucks because a lot of people are seeing that and saying they get paid too much. I'm not going to give them more money. It's like, which is fine, right? It's your money.
Right.
If you don't want to give them money, that's fine. But it's like you also have to understand like that if you're comparing again, like my big thing is when they're trying to compare it to a public figure. It's like a public figure gets paid from the government. It's not right to compare that to something where it's a private sector, you know, position, and you get paid for there's no cap, right? Like you get
Hmm.
paid what the consumer wants to pay you. So
Right.
that's just my point.
Hmm. Well, I think when you say what the consumer will pay, I think there's a difference because Twitch is a unique instance where what is being sold is the personality.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not if 50% goes to Twitch, then I would imagine you're technically not paying the person. Your sense of freedom is who you want the money to go to, but you're still paying Twitch. You're paying Twitch for the subscription of this like personality, the access to this personality.
Right,
So
but
there is a difference when we're talking about like different markets and Twitch because Twitch does have a very unique uh style or not style has a very unique format, almost like sex work, to be honest.
I'm not going to go against that. But not everyone knows that. Not everyone knows that 50% of that subscription goes to Twitch.
Right.
It's not thrown out there.
Mhm.
I only know because I did my research, right. I did my research and found out that only 50% of it
With a
goes
full
to the
dollar, you
viewer.
got 50 cents.
Exactly, right. And I think I said this to you. I said this before, but Twitch will only give you a paycheck if you make $150.
Jesus.
So you don't make that money. If you don't make $150, they will not crack you a paycheck.
But what if I make 149.50 and I just decide to quit right then and there?
They are keeping that
That's
149.50.
bullshit. That's what happens.
Yep. And the
Yeah.
thing is, so there's Twitch affiliate, right? That's the first step, and that's where you can start making money off of subscriptions. So you sign a contract.
Right.
In that contract, that's where it is. You have to make a minimum $150 through the platform, then we'll send you a check. So going off and talking about how Twitch, is running a prostitution ring. Um, it it
No.
it it, they really are, but it's like in I don't want to say smart way, but it's like it's just they're
That's
taking
a different way.
they're taking advantage of people, right? They're taking advantage of people, and it's just it just sucks because yeah, they are signing contracts. That's the
Yeah.
thing. If you're not reading it and you just sign it, that's on
There you
you,
go.
right? So it's
Yeah.
like yes, they are taking advantage of people, but it's right there. It's a contract. You read it, and if you don't like something, you tell them no, right?
To be
That's
fair, though, the point of things like those are meant to be like purposely obscuring.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
need to understand some legalese to have a full comprehension of what you're signing.
Yeah. I mean, it goes to like, what are those things that you fucking just check off, when you're doing something real quick? Like, oh, yeah, whatever. I agree to terms and conditions, whatever. And you just
Yeah.
press OK. I agree. No one really reads the terms and conditions, right? They just scroll through and like, okay, sure. So I'm not disagreeing with that because people are just like, oh, I'm affiliate now. I can start making money. And then they sign the contract, they're affiliate the next day. And then, they make, let's say they get some subs and then they just don't get a check. And they're just like, why am I not getting a check? Like, oh, because of this and that. And then if, let's say, you just stop streaming, Twitch keeps 100% of that money. So your half stays with Twitch and then you're just with nothing.
Fuck.
Yeah. So,
You're out all $150 that you worked so hard for.
yeah, exactly. But going back to the main topic, uh, it's to me, it's I don't know. It just seems like any other entertainer to me. You know what I mean? Like any brand can come because, like you said, right? Hazan has about 40,000 people watching him.
Mhm.
Anybody could just be like, "Hey, I'll give you X amount of money to just say my brand's name, right? I say Coke or have like a Pepsi bottle sitting right there, for your next stream for 8 hours or whatever,
Of course.
because that's 40,000 people who are watching that, right? So it's like,
Oh yeah.
so it's like, yeah, it's to me, it's okay if they're making that much money because that money represents how much money is being thrown at them through subscriptions and how much they're getting off of ad revenue through Twitch. And again,
Uh,
Twitch Twitch gets that
and
initial
sponsors.
paycheck. Well, the money that was thrown out there on the leak, it doesn't include sponsors.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so it's just through subscriptions and ad revenue. And remember, the ad revenue money is coming from the paycheck that's given to Twitch from whatever company wants the ad being thrown in, right? So it's like,
Uh,
and they're only getting a portion of it, and the portion is like really really bad. Like,
yeah.
um, a lot of Twitch streamers go on and say, I get nothing off of ad revenue. Everything comes from subscriptions, donations, and whatever else. But ad revenue is abysmal. If you want to get paid off of ad revenue, you go on YouTube. Twitch, you get nothing. So it's like
Gotcha.
the majority of that money is all subscriptions, and that's just
Okay.
based off of what people want, right? If you sub to someone, you sub to someone, right? So, and the other thing that you have to remember is uh what is it? Twitch has like these things where you get like, oh, 20% off subscriptions or whatever. And then there's gift subs, right? Gift subs is like basically, let's say I want to give this person 10 subs. I gift 10 subs. So
Right.
10 random people that have been um on this person's stream will get a gift sub. And that person gets basically paid for 10 subs. So I'm paying, let's say it's $10 per sub, right? So I give $100 to basically Twitch, and then the person gets 10 gift subs, whatever. So it's like, not everyone subs, but because people are giving away gift subs, it's like they're still getting that money, like as if they're getting 10 new subscribers. Um, so I don't know. It's just, to
You
me,
definitely came to this discussion well equipped, well
I did.
informed.
Yeah,
Awesome to
like
me.
that's why I asked how much you've seen and everything, because I have done my research, and I've done my research beforehand, right? Because I do stream, right? I do stream, and there's a big reason why I'm not aiming for affiliate, right? Because of all this
Right.
fucking, and I'm just like, wow, this sounds horrible. The other reason why I'm not streaming or going for affiliate is because if I'm affiliate, I can't stream on multiple platforms. I can only stream on Twitch. if I'm live. So what I can do is I can stream on Twitch and then stop streaming on Twitch and then go stream on YouTube or Facebook, whatever. But I can't stream on multiple platforms at once.
Yeah, exclusivity.
Exactly. And on that contract, the affiliate contract, your brand is actually owned by Twitch.
Oof.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm not about when it comes to signing under Twitch. So that's why I never aimed for it. Because I'm just like, if I somehow had a bigger following, maybe, right? Maybe I would, but I don't. I don't really have a following. So it's like, I'm not going to sign away my brand that doesn't even have a following. So it's like, no, fuck that. Because statistically, it's not that hard to get affiliate. It really isn't. The requirements are not that
Well,
hard to
fine. Now I'm
achieve.
not going to try anymore.
um,
Fuck you.
honestly, on a side note, it's actually YouTube is just a better platform. Because when I say, hey, follow me on Twitch, and they go to my Twitch channel, I'm not live. They're like, okay, that's cool. And they leave, right? But on YouTube, I'm like, hey, check out my YouTube channel. I have a bunch of videos that they can watch, right? So it's like, if I was live all the time, maybe I can say, hey, check out my Twitch streams. But if I'm not, like, I just, when's the last time I've gone live? Right? It's been like 2-3 weeks since I've gone live. So it's like, it makes, like, YouTube is better for that. And going with the whole, what we're talking about with mental illness, or not mental illness, but mental stress and all that stuff, when it comes to Twitch, you can actually take a vacation when you're doing YouTube, because you can plan to have a week's worth of videos,
Oh yeah.
and then you can go on vacation, and those videos can be released when you want, and then you come back from vacation, you just get back to schedule, and you can have your week off and still get paid, where on Twitch you can't do that. Now,
Right.
I would say there is
Very
more
gig.
money. There's more money flowing through YouTube because of that, and you can get paid a lot more. There are more people making the type of money that is being discussed with Twitch streamers in YouTube, right? But it just seems like it's easier, because YouTube is just the algorithm on YouTube is easier to get, right?
Okay.
It really is. If you think, like, when you first open YouTube, the first thing that pops up is recommendations, right?
Yes.
You get YouTube is owned by Google, who owns almost everything, right? They know everything about you. And so they will recommend you things. Like, it's so hard not to look at the recommended videos and not click on something, because something pops up and you want to
Oh, that
watch it,
always piques your interest. Yeah.
right? On Twitch, there's nothing like that, dude. They don't recommend streams for you. There are, quote unquote, some recommended streams for you, but you're like, who the
That's
fuck
it.
is this person? Who? Okay, they're playing a game that I watched the other day. That's cool. I don't know who this person is. It's not tempting. It's not nothing. Twitch doesn't have that. Where Google, YouTube does, right? YouTube has the algorithms, and you can manipulate the algorithms to attract new viewers. It's easier to hop in and watch a 2 minute video, or like whatever, like, say you have a 6 minute video. It's really easy to go in there, watch that 6 minute video, than to go in and watch someone live, because then you feel like you feel like you're obligated to maybe write on the chat, or see what they're talking. Maybe, like, you come in towards the end of a conversation, you're like, oh, I don't know what they're talking about, and you leave, right? So it's like, it's a lot easier to do it on YouTube, where people can just mindlessly just watch videos, and Twitch is nothing like that. You're live. And if you're not live, no one can watch your stream, right? If you're like, no one's looking at my empty offline screen on Twitch. No one's watching that. You know, if you're offline, you're offline. No one's hanging out there, right? But on YouTube, it's just there. People can
Yeah.
watch your stuff at 2 in the morning or 3 in the afternoon, whatever they decide on. Whenever they decide to watch your video, they'll watch your video. So it's like
Mhm.
that money, because YouTube's like that, there's a lot more ads going on. So the and the way the ad system works on YouTube is a lot better than it is on Twitch. Twitch is just like whatever. Your ad can make no sense to the streamer. But on YouTube,
Yeah,
the
it's
ad
just
makes
that
sense. Like you
animal that kind of just keeps doing its own thing no matter what.
Yeah, like the ads to me make sense to me, the person,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So it's like the ads that I get, I'm like, oh yeah, I get a lot of like financial stuff, like crypto and bullshit like that, because I watch a lot of those videos. So most of
Mhm.
my ads are that, which is fine, like I just skip through them, but most of my ads are that, that or video game related shit or movies. That's what I get
Mhm.
recommended. Like, it's like that is what it is, right? Because it's Google. They know what the fuck you're into. They know what videos you watch. They know what you're looking up. You know what
Oh yeah.
what what you're googling, right? So it's like Google's or YouTube's just a way better platform if you want to like make it, as you want to say, right? Like if you want to make it, you go through YouTube because YouTube videos just are way easier to watch and way easier to get in front of when it comes to like instead of Twitch streaming. Um, but yeah, that
Jesus fucking Christ, Harry. Stop being passionate about things. God.
right?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone has the reductive fucking opinion of mine. I think everyone has the right to uh pursue wealth. I mean, I get uncomfortable when people are obscenely fucking wealthy because
Mm-hmm.
I find that's more a comment on like the society that allows them to. I know that like I'm pulling it out of the weeds, which I think reduces the conversation. But I just again, I think it's more the environment than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I want people on Twitch to not be treated like gig workers, although that's difficult because I don't consider Twitch necessarily an essential position.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, Twitch could just disappear, and I think you would still have almost all of these people be fine.
Yep.
I mean, maybe a small portion of people would be entirely dependent on Twitch, but I mean, like again, if you had, like you were saying, an entire workforce of teachers or EMTs or doctors or firefighters just disappear, that would be something different. It's just a shame that like that's prioritized over something that is essential. Something like a teacher, you know, yeah, they're a public servant, and then we talk about privatization, where it's like their rights are more and more stripped away, and they're paid less, and everyone vilifies their unions, and then we talk about private schools and how much better they are, but you know they ain't.
Yeah.
I don't know where I
Yeah.
was going with that.
No, I
Fuck.
mean, you're not wrong. Like, if you like, it's just unfortunate that that's just how it is here, in our country. Um, I don't know about other countries. I don't. I'm not from other countries, so I just know about here. And yeah,
Mhm.
we right. uh, what we prioritize in our government is different. You know, but it is what it is, right? Like, um, I
I
just
think another thing is that you can see people actually make money. I think one of the things that people do contribute money towards streamers is that like it's something that you see. Like
yeah.
you can physically see someone go from like 10,000 to 50,000 in like a year, or like a couple hundred
Mm-hmm.
to a couple thousand in like a year. And that's steady growth. It's like, when are you going to ever see like a teacher pay raise across the entire United States, like a federal mandate? I
Yeah.
think it's easier to, I mean, it's more, I think it's a little insidious because it's the same environment that gives people that kind of hope and desire that you can see that kind of change that also fosters that kind of unhealthiness, right? Because I mean, it's like it's important, slow, meandering work to get things that matter, like higher wages for just people in general, not teachers, but in general. But it's not sexy. It's like you don't see it change
Mm-hmm.
immediately. So what's the point? And then you have kids mainly, and like teenagers and or kids, teenagers, 20-year-olds who put money towards people because it's like yeah, you want to see them grow and they're enjoyable and you think they have a great opinion on the world too. It's like, yeah, that's how I see some of it at least.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather get more in depth with it with a better opinion,
Right.
but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that would be a different topic for another podcast. Politics.
I really need to fucking I hate when you have the up and up on me. I hate it. You're so fucking smart with this shit sometimes. And
Sometimes,
I'm just
not all the time.
shut up, Harry, you know what I mean, bastard. I'm
It's
just
fine.
like, "Oh, this is bad," and then you're like, "Well, it's scientifically, mathematically, blah 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 blah," blah," and I'm just like, "Mm,
Oh
I
no,
can't contribute."
it's fine. Like I think I don't know. Like it's it's not. I guess like seeing it. We discussed right the whole YouTube thing that I want to do, where I interview people that don't know right about, or like either they do know or have a brief like idea of what the question I'm asking for, just so I can see what everyone is thinking,
Mhm.
right? Like it's with you, like you're not, you don't follow streaming as much as I do, right? You
Right.
just
I
don't.
have a general idea from
Right.
people of outlying YouTubers who talk about it,
Right. But
but like again, like I follow a political streamer, and that's the only reason I know about the Hassan like mansion fucking debacle.
yeah.
Like he's getting shit on YouTube and Twitter because he says he's a socialist and people that don't know what fucking socialism is are like, "Oh, you need to be held to your own accord." And it's like, okay. Oh, and that's it. That's
Yeah.
how I know it, where it's like I follow a political streamer. He talked about what happened and I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, wow, that sounds really fucking stupid."
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Like,
so
don't get
like
me wrong, apparently like Hassan actually treats his mods or his whatever kind of shitty. But like I don't give a shit about the house. Like
yeah.
that's the thing. It's like I if you're making money off of that, as long I honestly think streaming or streamers commit depending on like again mods, people who are under you, like are kind of like a zero sum. Like they're not particularly hurting anyone
Mhm.
unless they're contributing to like an environment. I don't fucking know. But like
Right.
they themselves tend to make a lot of money and not influence too many people through a business structure, I think.
Mm.
Related to them, I mean.
Yeah.
Or I don't know where I'm going with this, I suppose.
No, yeah, yeah. It's just again like the whole information. It's like, yeah, I actually, again, like I pulled numbers off of someone who's already done their research, right? So like, uh, I just I did some research, right, where like you just have a small graph of what was happening with the whole Twitch leak. So it's like it's fine. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, like I don't know. It's one of those like I said, like um seeing someone's perspective of what it is. Like I didn't mean to like make you seem like you know what I mean? Like you didn't really. I didn't mean to like over. If I can't even find the words, man. See,
Over
this is.
anything, dude. You're fine.
But you know what I mean?
You're
Like
good.
I didn't want to like the things that I'm not too like. It's not that I'm not too fond of. It's just I see it a lot where like, and what I don't want to do in that the videos is like tell people how they're wrong. Like I never wanted to tell you that you're wrong. it's just like, or like inform you, like, oh no, actually it's this way. Like it was more of like a
Want me to
discussion of
admit
like,
to myself that I am wrong.
yeah, like I don't want to do that because it's like it's all perspective, right? Like because if you, I think a big example is like stuff that I see all the time on my YouTube recommendations is Trevor Noah Daily Show. One of his
Yeah.
the people who go out on the field, he goes around to like Trump supporter conventions thingies, and he basically like makes them look. I mean, it's not too hard, but makes them kind of stumble on their words.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Like I watch. There's a lot of videos like that where like I don't like that. When you come in and like you ask people questions on purpose to make them look bad or like make them stumble on their discussions, or you know what I mean? Like
I don't mind that much. Like I I know where you and I would be coming from with
yeah.
that because we've dealt with people like that. But I think in a I don't consider that journalism, but
Mm-hmm.
I think in a setting like that, if someone pokes and prods and kind of pushes back on that idea, I think
Mm-hmm.
if it's a little iffy,
Mm-hmm.
morally speaking, I think that's fine. Like I get it. Like taking some random idiot in a crowd and being like, you know, obviously they don't have all the answers, and what was who's that one guy like? Oh, where do you think Obama was during 9/11? Or what's that guy? That one fellow who gets kind of like wrecked online. The
I
Obama
don't
wasn't
know.
in office during 9/11. Where do you think he was? And the guy's like, I think we should get to the bottom of that.
I don't
Yeah,
remember,
like
but yeah.
no worries, but like I get that. Like I feel like it's kind of like a bit of junk food where there's a large market of people who want to know that one side is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't necessarily have, if you're going to a place and you're trying to scope out what's going on, and you know that something is kind of you know doesn't quite add up. I don't have a problem with someone going and be like, so you're saying this, okay, so what does that mean? So what does that mean you're in favor of? Because it sounds eerily like this other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't,
Yeah.
I mean, when you talk about like getting someone's side, it sounds a lot like Reuters and the Associated Press, like information without context. And I do think context is important because
Mm-hmm.
uh, I think, especially with how you're talking about with Trevor Noah, I think is a far less impactful infotainment personality, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh, so part of what he does is he does like middle of the road, a little bit left information with comedy predominantly. And the
Right.
point of it is just to kind of lay the smack down on conservatives, right?
Right.
Yeah, I could see where that might, like, as a regular, be kind of an issue. But I also don't have a problem with addressing things that conservatives say. I think Sam Cedar does a good job of that. He'll take clips of like things politicians say, typically on the conservative end, or individuals or commentators or YouTube personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Someone like Steven Crowder, who who I do think is genuinely wrong with almost every single thing he says, and I do think should be ridiculed because
Mm-hmm.
personally, I think he commits more harm. And I think with context, ridiculing and clipping him in a way is a healthier way to combat someone like that than other means. So I do think
Mm-hmm.
context does matter if you are trying to, if you have an agenda. I don't mean that in
Right.
a nefarious way, but I mean, I understand where you're coming from. The idea of wanting to get the whole story and forming your own opinion, it feels a little more like internal instead of external. Like I want to have a YouTube channel where I'm interviewing people and it's for my benefit to understand and to try to like maybe formulate an opinion based on my own understanding about what I'm seeing,
Mhm.
instead of instead of I'm an ideologue, like I'm someone I would consider you someone who's on the left, right? You around
I
there.
guess so. People would put me there, yeah.
Who's like, yeah, I'm on this and I'm actively trying to counter what the other side is saying.
Okay.
If that I hope I'm not misrepresenting you.
Um, like for the videos,
Yeah.
uh, I guess I'm not. I don't want to like prove anyone wrong or do anything of that sort.
Okay.
Like all I'm literally saying is just people's what's people's perspective on things are. Like
Yeah.
I'm
Not
not there to,
necessarily political.
yeah, not political, but just like, and not like um telling that they're wrong or anything. I'm not like, I just want to see their viewpoint and see where the average person viewpoint is on things,
Falls
on
on that.
topics.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, yeah, I can be like, well, did you know that blah 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 blah, or like, do you agree with this or blah, blah, like it's more of like I want to see their viewpoint on the thing and like
Yeah.
and like the like just see their viewpoint, like because it's like,
And leave the pushing back to other people.
yeah, because I'm not there to push back at all. It's like if that's your viewpoint, like I want to know how you got there, right? Like
Yeah.
what got you there. I'm not there to be like, oh, actually you're wrong or something like that. It's just like, what's your viewpoint and how'd you get there? Like what
Yeah.
influenced you? Where did you get your information? Like that's it. It's just literally a bunch of information from random people. That's what I'm
Yeah.
aiming for. Because it's like I can easily do what they do, right? Where it's like I can like maybe educate people, right? Because there's people who want to educate people of like, hey, like, yes, this is your viewpoint, but you didn't do your research and this is where you're wrong. Like, like I don't want to do that. I can do that. I can easily do that. Like I can,
Yeah.
do my research beforehand, but I just want to see people's viewpoints, like on subjects or
Mhm.
discussions or whatever. Um, I'm not there to push back at all. It's just I want to see their position, right? And that's it. That's what the videos are intended for. And like the way you described it was really good. Where like it's just information for myself, see people's viewpoints.
Mhm.
That's really it. And I just thought that was a fascinating thing to put out there because I think it's great information for people who want that information, if that makes sense. Like if because like I know there's surveys out there, but the survey it seems like certain surveys are like too general.
Super biased. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
And
either biased with leading questions or
mhm,
too general and provide no specificity.
yeah, and I think that's what I kind of want the videos to be more about, of like being more specific so like, oh, okay, that's this is why they have that mindset, or like is this just a one-off or is this like a trend, right? Kind
Right.
of thing.
Yeah.
So that's really it, and I haven't gone forward with it yet, just because, you know, um, uh, you know, just
Yeah, I
coronavirus
get
and
you,
stuff
bud.
like that,
Yeah.
and just it would be cool to just get a video camera and some sort of mic and go around, in public spaces and start interviewing people, but at the same time, like,
Absolutely.
also with that is I don't know if I should like what the like, do I have to have them like sign a contract or something for me to put them on YouTube, or stuff like that I'm like, uh, I
Some
don't
legal
know
stuff. Yeah.
exactly. So I haven't done that much research yet to do it, but I'm like, um, but that, and I didn't want to. That's why, like, with this discussion, like, I never want to do that. I never want to push, like, I don't want to push you towards like, hey, this is how you should think. It's more of like, I wanted like see your viewpoint, and then like I also was like, because I know the way you were straying was, like everyone else was straying, right? Like comparing it, and
Mhm.
like teachers should be getting paid more. It's like, and I think no one's against that. It's just like it's a different mindset to think about, like you even admitted it, right? You like it, you feel uncomfortable when people are getting paid that much money, because that is a lot of money. And I
No,
agree,
see, the
like,
thing is, it's like I don't I don't think it's discomfort from people being paid that much. It's the discomfort that the disparity exists,
right. Sorry. Yeah, that.
right? It's like I don't I don't care in a vacuum that like I know I'm talking about Hassan. I'm sorry. He's like the
Right.
only fucking one that I like
Yep. Yeah,
actually
there's
hear about all.
nothing
I
wrong
don't
with that.
care that Hassan bought a house. I don't care that he's making this much money. What I care about is the fact that like someone like this can sit every day at a chair for 10 hours or 8 to 10 hours
Mhm.
and have thousands of people watch him just for his opinion, just for, the fact that he is attractive, his drip, yeah, good drip, and his opinion. And he
Yeah.
gets like a shitload of money while there are people out there who do the work, right? Who
Mhm.
do the work, who've got the sweat, who've got the blood on their hands, who've got all this stuff, and that's nothing. That's all. And
Yeah.
the working poor and the people who are abused and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And again, he still falls under an environment where it's like, yeah, he's incredibly lucky that he's made that much and he still has to work. He can afford to take some time off, I can tell you that. But like he's lucky that he is that top earner because again, like it's gig economy for these people where it's like if you don't fully commit, you're not making money. And if you don't, you know, if you mess up along the way while you're building it,
Mhm.
you're still fucked.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to disparage them because they're still vulnerable, a vulnerable workplace, an immensely
Mhm.
vulnerable workplace. But just the comparison is irksome.
Fair enough. And I don't know. That's why, like, I was comparing it to, like, again, like I said before, to movie stars and athletes and stuff like that, because it's like they also get paid a lot, and there's just, I think the discussion is different because they're just sitting down and playing video games. That's what a lot of people are saying, right? Like, oh, they're just sitting down and playing video games all day and they get paid this much money. It's like,
Mm.
yeah, like, you know, actors and athletes, maybe, like you said, like maybe they do more, to other
Mhm.
people's, to people's eyes, but it's
Oh yeah,
like,
no, because it's like if you're an athlete, you're essentially getting paid to put your body through like car wreck after car wreck for 10 years.
mhm,
It's like that is that that's an immensely not dangerous. Yeah,
mhm,
dangerous, but I mean it's like that I do think you're being paid a pretty fair amount for something like that. What the market will bear, I guess what
right,
some people say. But it's like uh, I don't say that oh, where what am I trying to say? I'm not trying to say that like they also don't have their issues. Like I was
yeah,
saying, a football player gets 10 good years if they're lucky. And then after
mhm,
that, they probably don't even necessarily have the money to take care of themselves
right,
after all the shit that they're put through. And is
yeah,
that fair? Even if they're playing a game, because it's like there are cultures of people that are cultivated to play sports and get out of the environment that they're in
mhm,
by playing sports. There are people who cultivate streaming to get out of environments. It's like it, I understand where this is coming from. It's gig economies are on the surface attractive to people
yeah,
because of what you see. You see the controversy about some dude buying a house who is a streamer for buying a $3 million house who's a streamer, and you don't see as you were saying it, the other 11 million people.
Yeah.
It's like college football or like going into the sex work.
Hmm.
Maybe yeah, sex work as well. It's like, yeah, these are high risk, high reward, possibly not even high reward
Yeah.
environments that show you the most successful ones and tell you that it's all hard work that can get you there. And that's the part that gets me. That's
Hmm.
because you have like I think Ninja is like the biggest proprietor of that. He's the
Yeah.
biggest fucking like esports dude who's like really fucking good, like inhumanly good at what he does.
Yeah.
And he thinks that all of it is hard work. So he goes there and he says on his streams, I got here through hard work. You can too. And then you tell the thousands of fucking kids what he said, right? Or he
Hmm.
tells the thousands of fucking kids what he just said, that like what I did was entirely through hard work. Uh, and there's no nuance to how the Twitch platform works, how he had to get there, and it wasn't just the hard work of almost like partially naturally being good at what he does and partially some hard work at practicing, but like another 80 fucking percent comes into like business choices and luck and all this other shit. And that's the problem I have with. It's the same thing with Uber fucking drivers where it's like, "Oh yeah, I'm the commercial. I managed to like subsidize half of my earnings when I lost my job." And it's like, "Dude, that's great. Did you also mention like the 12 hours as opposed to the 8 hours that you have to work now or the shit you have to deal with from other people or like the fucking the star system that can ruin like how many drivers like that's all I'm trying to get into, right? Like
Yeah.
I get that they have issues and I get that like it can just become a revolving door and a spiral staircase.
Mhm.
Oh fuck. God damn it, my throat hurts from fucking running my mouth too much.
No, you're good, man. No, yeah. Like for me, for example, I would have to disagree with the whole luck thing, just personally, um, just because I, I think it is hard work. You're not wrong in the aspect of like he's not describing the hard work he's doing, right? Like you're saying, like it's a business. Like yeah, like to run a business, you have to know what the fuck you're doing, right? But that contributes to the hard work he's putting, right? Like the hard work he's putting is researching how to run a business, right? To make good business decisions. Um like people who are lucky, I think are more like what's the brothers that are on YouTube? Um there's one who got big, and then there's the brother who basically is lucky that his brother got famous, and so he's just going off of that. That
I
I
have no
do.
idea.
I think it's like Logan Paul, Jake Paul.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So I don't know which one got famous first, but it is what it is, right? That I can agree. But
Logan.
like, yeah, okay. So for example, for Ninja situation, like, and I'll go with Doctor Disrespect's position, right? Like all that, it's a hard work. Like
Mhm.
whether because you're inputting extra time outside of whatever, like YouTube or Twitch, you're putting into your business. You're learning how to run a business. You're learning because you have to deal with, like Dr. Respect has to deal with an agency, right? I like I'll say maybe some people out there got lucky. Maybe they got spotted by a big name and said, "Hey, check this channel out. They're fucking cool."
Mhm.
And they get shouted out, and then a bunch of people go see them, and they get big, right? But even then, I still feel like you might have got a little bit lucky, but you working on your channel, you working on your brand, you working on, okay, now that you have all these eyeballs on you, what are you going to do, right? Because you can get
Right.
eyeballs on you, but then if you don't do anything, if you don't really work that hard, those eyeballs are going to stray away again, right? But if
Yeah.
you work hard and you work on your brand and you keep those eyeballs locked onto you and get more, like I believe that's hard work. Like I don't think that's luck personally.
No,
Um,
no, no. I don't think that,
mm,
but like the the uh the ability to grow
mm.
the way some people do, I do think is a bit of is a bit
I
of
guess
chance.
the chance of like people going onto Twitch and clicking on your stream is luck, but it's also that like the way Twitch works, if you have viewers, you're going to be towards the top of the recommendations, right? Um, but like it's still, you might have people come in, but if you're not entertaining, they're going to leave, right? And for people to keep coming back to watch you, like you have to have something. Like I do agree that hard work is just the tip of the iceberg. I 100% agree with that. Um, because yes, it's hard work, but the definition of hard work is a really long fucking um description. It really
Yeah,
is, right? Because there are just some people who are not going to make it. Like no matter, you can stream for 8-10 hours every day, right? But if you don't, you just might not have what it takes to catch people's attentions. Maybe you're
mm,
super monotone, maybe you don't talk, or you're like not super awkward, but like you just, don't know how to interact with your chatters or reviewers. You know what I mean? Like there could be something about you just that isn't capturing that. I mean, these people have certain personas on when they're on stream. I mean, Dr. Disrespect's a huge example, right? His whole
mhm,
theme is a whole persona, but like when some of these streamers are live, they're completely, they're not the same when they're offline, right? So it's like
right.
you have to change your personality to attract people. So I think I would agree with what you're saying is hard work shouldn't be the only description, right? Like um because yes, they worked hard, right? They worked hard to get where they're at, but I think it's, I guess if like you're put on the spot and saying, "Hey, how did you get here?" and you're like, "Oh, well, I worked hard." Like, yeah, that I think
Yeah, no,
that's a
that's what I that's what
yeah,
I'm I guess I mean, I'm not trying to devalue hard work, but
right, right.
part of what you said came in, and then what you just said, I think, is another thing where it's like
Mm,
when someone claims that it's all hard work instead of other factors that they can't control that also got them there,
mm.
right? Where it's like, fuck, I just lost my train of thought.
No, no, no,
Jesus
no.
Christ.
No, I agree. Um,
Yeah.
because you're right. Like, I think there are factors that they can't control, right? Like,
Mhm,
like I was just saying, right? Like, there's certain things that people are going to be more attracted than another person, right? Like
mhm.
the amount of people who are streaming for 0 viewers on Twitch right now are pretty big, right? Um,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
so they might not have what it is that they have to change some things, right? And that's what a lot of, like, if you're just asking people right out, like a Twitch streamer, like a big Twitch streamer, like how'd you get here, and it's like a simple question, just like, oh, it's just hard work. I'm like, I don't know how to, like, there's way more like if you can sit down with them and really like, all right, what were the steps you did? Okay, well, like I'm sure they'll describe it and you're like, okay, well, that sounds like a lot of hard work. But,
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like, and because they'll describe to you like what, like, like, don't just sit there, talk to your chat, and stuff like that. But it's like to get from 0 viewers and up, to get out of 0 viewers and get like at least one consistent viewer is difficult. It
Yeah. No,
really is. And I can agree with you on that. Like it's difficult to get an eyeball on you, right? Like um so like sometimes it is awful luck. And I can agree with that. There is luck involved on it. Um I guess when you said when it's 80% luck, like that's where I was like I can't personally agree with that. I can agree with like there is some luck involved in it, um,
Mhm.
and some other, um, damn, you just said it, some factors that aren't
Are
involved
beyond
when it,
control.
yeah,
Yeah.
or be, yeah, there you go, yeah, that. I can agree with
There
that,
we
but
go.
I
Mhm.
just, I personally can't agree that it's the percentage wise. I can't agree with the percentage wise that you described, at least.
Fair
Um,
enough. I
yeah,
might have been hyperbolic. Yeah.
yeah. But I do. I'll be on your side when you say that it's not all hard work, because sometimes it isn't. Some people get big off of, like, again, Jake Paul getting big off of his brother, right? So it's like
Yeah.
that's a huge, that one 80% luck, right? Like, you're lucky your brother's big, and you're piggybacking off of his fame, right? So I can agree with that. Um, but I feel like, for example, Ninja, like, he got really good at the video games he's at because he practiced and played the shit out of them, right? Like,
Right.
that alone, like, as much as, like, oh, all you're doing is playing video games, like, yeah, but the head and eye coordination when it comes to certain, like, big examples, I've been trying to fight this boss in Kingdom Hearts, and I can't get the timing down with my blocks and shit. I gave up. Just straight up gave up.
Right.
Like, I can sit there and practice for, hours, but I'm like, that's not worth it for me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, but if I was getting paid
There's
to get
no
that good,
guarantee that that the practice would actually help, because it's like,
uh huh.
you know how I play. It's like, if Ninja told me right here now to apply
Hmm.
the same things that he does every day, for me, I don't think the same outcome would happen.
Mm,
That's the thing, is that I think he's also saying, like, the same thing could happen to you if you just do what I do, and I think that's also not a lie, but
okay.
a misadvertisement. It's not. It, it's. I'm not saying hard work can't get you places. Hard work is always encouraged. What I
Yeah.
mean is, like, when someone who I don't think has a full grasp of how they got there
Okay.
says, "Do this exactly because this is how I got here, and if I did it, you can do it." And
Okay. Hmm.
that's the problem I have.
I can get behind that one. Yeah.
Mhm.
That because I think I said it a while ago, in this podcast, where I said, uh, every streamer made it differently, right?
Yeah,
And I can agree with that, because, and what you said, and I never thought about, but, like, some of these streamers don't even know how they got there. They just
yeah,
somehow, like, people started watching them and they got big, and they're like, oh yeah, it's awful hard work. Okay, okay, I can see where you're coming from now. Okay,
yeah. That's what I mean.
yeah.
I'm not trying to say, like, because to me, I equate Twitch to, like, maybe not fairly, but like equate Twitch and Twitch streamers to, like, people working in businesses, where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so tell the single mother of two working, like, a job and a night shift, uh to do the same, like, drop work, go to college kind of routine to be successful. Like, oh yeah, no shit, I have to go to fucking college. How the fuck am I going to do that when I'm working two jobs to just support two kids? Or,
Right.
like, how can I do it if I'm poor? Or how can I do it if I don't have the same time schedule if you do? It's like
Yeah.
stuff like that, where it's like, oh, just do the things that I do. And it's like, okay, even if you do the same things that that person does, it's like, I can guarantee you, from the amount of times that you've tried to teach me tactics in fucking Modern Warfare, I
Mm-hmm.
just don't have the motor skills for it. I like
Yeah.
Modern Warfare. I like Warzone. If you sat me down and you taught me, like, one on one, or if we did some stuff where it was just, like, serious, I'm sure I would be better, like, tactically. But I
Yeah.
will never. You could train me for like a year, and I will never get, like, significantly better. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm certain of that. Like, I might improve a little bit, but, like, if it was like a, hey, you could be as good as Ninja kind of thing, I don't think that would ever be the case. And that's the thing, is that it's being marketed as like, yeah, just do it this way and you could be as good as me. Well, Ninja wouldn't say that because he doesn't think anyone could be as good as him. But
Right.
that's the mentality that I think is kind of to me.
Okay. Fair enough.
Oh. Yeah, fuck Hassan.
Yeah, fuck
Socialist
that.
house. You should live in a fucking cardboard socialist box.
Right.
Take that fucking shit away from him. Never mind, he shouldn't even get the box.
You shouldn't even get the box. Hey, we can't
No.
afford a box. He shouldn't get a box.
Yeah, fuck him. Honestly, I don't give a shit. I
Yeah.
really don't. The guy,
Yeah.
like, if he earned it, he earned it. He's still
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I feel like it gets me where it's like he's doing his thing for socialism as best as he can, and like I'm sure there's more that he could do and he should be encouraged to do more, but like he's also an individual and you can still be an individual in socialism. I feel like people who think they're a little more progressive still have like this like authoritarian opinion of socialism where it's like, no,
Mm,
you can't buy things, like you can't have nice things if you're a socialist, and I think that's fucking stupid. So hats off to
yeah.
him, and hats off to him for fucking drinking salty people tears. Oh fuck, Harry, Jesus
Yep.
Christ, you've been fucking talking about boys and fucking trends all night.
Yeah, man.
God,
We're like 3.5 hours into the podcast, man.
Dune and Twitch.
Yep.
Jesus, Dune and fucking Twitch. I
Basically.
wasn't even prepared for one of them, you fucker. I
Oh
did like
man.
the Twitch discussion though.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was great. Think hope the listeners did as well.
All Demetrius of them.
Yep.
Fuck, I gotta check the numbers. I gotta now. Speaking of numbers, would you like me to do the outro, Harry? Do we want to talk about anything else?
Nothing else on my end.
All
Um,
right. We'll
we
cultivate some more topics for next week.
yeah, I have a list of them, but
Eh?
it's 1 in the morning, so I should probably start getting ready for bed.
Yeah, I got fucking work tomorrow, you bastard.
Oh fuck. Well, let's go.
Son of
Outro.
a puto madre. No, I'm kidding. All right, folks. We had fun tonight. It was actually really good to be back, and
Mm-hmm.
we'd love if you loved our content by liking and subscribing on Hitting the Mark with Harry and Mark on YouTube. You can also message us, tell us how bad we are, tell us your deepest, darkest secrets on hitting the mark 2020 at gmail.com. Didn't forget it. And if you want to catch us just talking about stupid shit, get our opinion, or retweet, tweet, don't tweet, Twitter, you can hit us up at capital H, capital T, capital M underscore podcast. Once again, HTM underscore podcast. All right, folks. Next week, we'll be discussing a couple new topics. We'll be discussing a couple more reviews, maybe a couple things on video games as well. All
Mm-hmm.
right. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Bye bye.
Auf Wiedersehen, assholes.